curriculum you see here is just curriculum that we are either currently using or have used in the past that I'm just showing, not selling anything. Okay, TikTok? Have you looked into the new All About Math with Learning Press? No, I have not. But that's interesting. Is that the same company as the All About Reading and All About Spelling? Because I've always wondered why they have the All About Reading and All About Spelling, but not All About Math. If that's even the one that you're talking about. Yes, you said yes. No, I didn't know about that. You know what I want to do tonight or today is take notes, because you guys always have such like new curriculums that I haven't heard of before. So that one was called All About Math. I'm going to write it down, and I'll just have like a little list going of things. I do have the website up. Yep, HSLDA, that one with the map somebody was asking. Yeah. Hasn't changed yet. I'm waiting. I'm with all these like different political races going on right now, different governors taking over. You can always expect homeschool laws to change. Educational reform is like usually the first thing a lot of governors come in and try to do. Sadly, that has to encompass homeschool as well, but it might not be sad. It might be a good thing. Like if you're in a state that has really strict homeschool laws, then having the laws change might actually be a good thing for you. They have level 1 and 2, but the level 1 is amazing. Ah, that's so awesome. Yeah, I knew, like I've seen that they've had All About Spelling, like I was saying, All About Spelling, All About Reading. And that's the one that people say is supposedly really good for kids with dyslexia, is that All About Reading. So I would be curious to know what that does for kids that have like dyscalculia with the math. That's cool. I wrote it down, so I'm going to look into that for sure. Yeah, this is the map I was talking about, the HSLDA map. I'm struggling with so much trying to afford it. Oh my gosh, listen, the affordability thing, I totally understand. Like when I quit my job to homeschool, that I was the breadwinner. So it was like, whoa. But this is where free curriculums are really good to look into. So the one that I always recommend, it is a Christian-based curriculum. It's called Easy Peasy All-in-One. That you just print the stuff out. Good and the Beautiful, even though I am not a fan of the Good and the Beautiful, they do have free curriculum on their website. Again, you would have to print it out yourself. But like their language arts, I have their math. Like I said, we did a year of the Good and the Beautiful, and I still hung on to a lot of my Good and the Beautiful stuff. But all the stuff that you see in the actual books, you can print it out on their website. But again, it's going to cost you some ink and some paper, so it's not free. Some parents will pull up the Good and the Beautiful stuff on like a tablet or something and have their kids write directly on the iPad. So if you don't want to print out a bunch of stuff, I know I talk so badly about this, but it is a good place to start. I feel like people call this the gateway curriculum. Like you start with the Good and the Beautiful, and then you realize there's better things out there, but this was good to at least get your foot in the door. Anyways, long story short, struggling financially with the homeschooling, look for those free options. If you are in a state that requires specific curriculum or specific programs that have to be approved ahead of time, there are free programs for that as well. They might not necessarily be ones that you just print out like this. They might just be online programs. Khan Academy, Khan, is totally free. That is one that you could use, and it provides report cards and scores, and that's good for states that require that as well. Good and Beautiful pre-K is a lot better. That's so funny you said that. I have it right here. Look. So Good and the Beautiful preschool. I got the preschool one and the level K primer, which is like preparing them for kindergarten. I was actually really impressed with this. As much as I cannot stand the Good and the Beautiful, again, for like those older grades, I agree. I did enjoy the preschool level. At some point, I did feel like it was kind of moving a little fast. Like, for example, I'm just going to flip to a random page, right? So here's lesson 45, and they're doing their uppercase and their lowercase. And I guess this is not a good example of how it moves quickly, but there were some parts where I was like, yeah, this is moving a little fast. Again, if everybody's just coming in, you're going to hear me keep repeating it over and over. It's for the TikTok algorithm thing, that this is for educational purposes only. I'm not selling any of this. I'm not sponsored by any of these people. This is me just sharing all the curriculum that I have on hand, because I don't get rid of anything. I keep everything. But I do agree. Good and the Beautiful preschool. Again, I know I don't talk highly of the Good and the Beautiful typically, but I did like the preschool level as well. The practice worksheets, yeah, that was cool too. It came with like the little folder that had the worksheets and stuff in it. I liked that. And okay, so like Good and the Beautiful preschool, we did that for a little bit with my middle daughter. She's also the one that we tried the Horizons kindergarten with, and we did the Christian Light kindergarten. This is what we ended up sticking with, but I feel like that Good and the Beautiful preschool was a good segue into our Christian Light Learning to Read program. Typical age for blending, that would typically be towards the end of kindergarten. So now this is interesting too. Some curriculums, like for example, when I was talking about Horizons earlier, I'm going to show you one right here. So this is Horizons. This is kindergarten level 1. So very beginning of kindergarten, they have the kids start blending right away. So let me show you what I mean. Here they learn the letter D on this day, right? And then after they learn the letter D, the very next day, they're learning the letter O, and then they immediately start blending the sounds together. I used to like that. I was like, cool, if they're already learning their letter sounds, why not start blending? But then it got to be a little confusing for my 5-year-old, and we backed it up. That's when we went back to Christian Light Education, where they're not blending right away. And so that's why I say typically the end of kindergarten. Once they have a real good grasp of those initial letter sounds, then the blending can come a little bit more naturally, right? But if your kid knows that, you know, B says B and L says ul, and when you put bull together, it makes the bull sound. If they are already naturally grasping that, which a lot of kids will, then you start as early as they seem ready. Sorry, that was a long-winded way of saying start when they're ready, but typically end of kindergarten. Okay, I'm going to start Christian Light. I am overwhelmed what to order. So this is one downside of Christian Light Education, because they are super like old school, you know. When you go to order, it can be a little bit confusing. I have a video on my page. Pretty much everything I'm going to talk to you guys about today, I have an actual video for on my page. If you type into TikTok or YouTube or any of them, how to order Christian Light, I have a video like taking you step by step, because you can order a whole grade level at once. Again, I'm not selling anything. This is for educational purposes only. Or you can order a la carte style, where you would just order like one little booklet at a time. That's good financially. So like if you can't afford to just buy out the whole grade level right up off the bat, maybe you buy the first 3 workbooks and then you go in a couple months and you buy the rest of the workbooks, if that makes sense. Also with Christian Light, you're going to want to make sure you're buying the right level. And the grade level that you think your kid is in might not be the grade level that they're actually in for this curriculum or any other curriculum, because most of them have placement tests where you go on and you take a test to see what level they should be in. Okay, Christian Light is like LifePack, where it's just it's like individual workbooks that they graduate up to. Like this is the language arts one, for example, right? This is language arts 1, 2, 10. So then they would move on to the next booklet every time they kind of graduate up. LifePack is the same way. LifePack is an individual workbook. This is the Bible curriculum that we use. And it's the same thing, little workbooks. Whereas curriculums like the Good and the Beautiful are going to be one big workbook for the whole year, right? So most curriculums are going to be like the Good and the Beautiful, where it's all just 1 or 2 workbooks throughout the year. Christian Light and LifePack, individual smaller workbooks. I like the smaller workbooks because the kids get excited. They're like graduating up to the next workbook every so many weeks instead of just working in the same book all year long. Totally personal preference though. Do you know anything about high school homeschool? So I am not personally homeschooling high school kids. My kids are all elementary level, but I do homeschool evaluations for high school students, if that makes sense. If you're in the state of Florida and you need a homeschool evaluation, I've got you there. And that's my experience with high school homeschool. Most of my high schoolers that are doing homeschool that I do evaluations for are using online programs, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing when my kids are in high school as well. Lily says, my son level 2 autism, do I recommend homeschooling? If you have the means, financial means, you're home or you can be home, 100% yes. And don't freak out about the IEP thing. Like a lot of people are scared to homeschool their child that has any kind of individual need because they might lose the IEP that you worked so hard to get if your kid's in public school. Don't let that worry you. You can keep the IEP active while you homeschool. Most homeschooling families just choose to kind of let it expire and you do your own thing at home. Ninth grade, we use Mia Prep. Yep, Mia Prep would be one option. Acellus Academy, sorry, my microphone's there. Acellus Academy, Power Homeschool, same company, just one's accredited program, one's not. Those would be high school options. I think Monarch has high school options as well. Yes, Ashley, I'm going to continue doing homeschool evaluations forever because my Florida certification is active. I'm just going to keep it active. So it doesn't matter where I live or where I go. I just do all my evaluations over Zoom anyways. So yes, my Florida people, if you need evaluations, I gotcha. Yes, so I do test my kids throughout the year. Even though the state of Florida tells you don't have to test your kids at the end of the year, I do, just for my own knowledge, right? So I personally like the MAP test. So I'll show you. I hate that it's backwards in the camera. This is the HSLDA website where you can go look up your homeschool laws. But the MAP assessment that you hear me talk about to see, like, where's my kid really at? Like, are they on a first grade level? Are they on a second grade level? That is on homeschoolboss.com. Again, I'm not affiliated with any of these people. I'm not selling anything. I'm just giving you options. I have to keep saying that because TikTok will flag me. It's backwards. Homeschoolboss.com. And you can go in and you can order the MAP test and just take it at home. And it will tell you where your kids' gaps are, if they're struggling. There's a little thing at the top that says book testing now. It's up there. Book testing now. And you just pick the date you want your kid to take the test and you just do it at home. I know it sounds weird, but that really is how it is. I also like the Iowa test, IOWA test. And we do that with our kids once a year. Life Pack all in one. You buy everything together for each grade. Yeah, so with the Life Pack, like I bought the 3rd grade Bible. Hey, Jess, thank you. I bought the 3rd grade Bible and it came in one big box with all of the I call them light units, with all of the unit booklets in that one box. With Christian Light, you can either choose to buy them, all together, like in a box set type thing, or individually. So Life Pack comes all in one box. And Life Pack, if you wanted to go this route, you can get all of the subjects together. Like you could get a box of Bible, a box of math, a box of language arts, a box of science, social studies, and it has like an all-in-one price for that. Yes, Life Pack this is a Christian curriculum. So Life Pack, Christian Light, obviously, by the name, is a Christian-based curriculum. If you don't want a faith-based Christian curriculum, then the word you're looking for is secular. So when you're typing into Google or whatever you're using to search, secular homeschool curriculums for 3rd grade or 2nd grade or whatever. Most of the ones that we use are Christian-based. There is one called Moving Beyond the Page that I really like, that I always recommend here on my lives. I have a little catalog. Here they are. Looks like this. This one is not religious, not Christian-based, Moving Beyond the Page, secular program, really cool program. And I know it's backwards, but it's Moving Beyond the Page is secular. Cindy, you said you had the first booklet, but you felt like it was really simple. Were you talking about the Life Pack, or were you talking about the, I don't know which one you were talking about. Tips on homeschooling younger boy versus girls. So all of mine are girls. Obviously, when I was a teacher, my boys were always more squirrely. And, actually, that just reminded me too. This could be boys or girls, but there is a math curriculum. I know I've got it up here somewhere, and here it is. It's called Beast Academy. If you've got a boy who's like into comic books, video games, like that kind of thing, animation, this is a math curriculum that uses comics to teach the math. So they read a comic, and it really is written like they're just reading a comic. And it's actually teaching them the math lesson. There's an online video program that goes with this as well if you wanted that, but that's called Beast Academy. So if you have a boy or girl, my best friend's girl loves this program. My girls liked it, but they're not really into like the comic booky style stuff, so we didn't stick with it, but this is cool. Beast Academy. Oh, you're doing Singapore math. So I have not personally used Singapore math. I do know that is one program that a lot of the private schools typically use. Singapore and Saxon, the two S's, you'll hear that one a lot. And it's a different way of teaching and learning. I think I just drew on my face. So yes, I totally understand what you mean about it feeling overwhelming because it might not be the way that you learned math, but don't be afraid to change it up. I know it sucks, like you spend money on a curriculum and you want to stick with it, but don't be afraid to change it if it's not working. Oh, you have the first booklet for the math life pack. Gotcha. So keep in mind any program that has like the individual booklets like this, so life pack, Christian Light, any individual workbooks, the first workbook is typically going to be a review or it's going to be very, very gentle. So that's how Christian Light is. It's like you do the first workbook and you're like, what? This is like so babyish. This is too easy. But then eventually it's kind of like they're just gearing them up for the rest of the program. Okay, the Homeschool Boss test. Oh, and you're North Carolina. Okay, so I'm North Carolina as well. I'm Florida moved to North Carolina. So with the MAP test, homeschoolboss.com, which is that website I was showing you. Again, not affiliated with them, not selling it, just showing it to you. You purchase the test online and you'll type in like your kid's grade level, right? So like 3rd grade and you want to do math or 3rd grade reading, whatever test you decide you want to take. And it will ask you what date do you want to take it? And you schedule it for, Monday at 9 o'clock or whatever. And then you get a special code, a special login. And then the day of the test, you sit down, your kid sits we did ours on the iPad. Your kid will sit down. It'll ask them math questions or reading questions, whatever you chose for the test, specifically on their grade level. And then you will get a report emailed to you 24 hours later telling you, okay, your kid did well in this area, they struggled in this area. It'll show you a graph to tell you whether or not your kid was on grade level. I know somewhere in here I have my daughter's scores because I keep everything. And it was here. Oh, look at this. I have it right here. Okay, so I tried to black out. I'm gonna do it this way because everything. Actually, hold on. I'm gonna show you my kids' test scores. This is the Iowa assessment. Hold on. How do I flip the camera? I'm like so special when it comes to this. Okay, flip camera. Hold on. Sorry, I'm in the homeschool shed. Okay, I'm going to show you guys. This is not the MAP test, okay? This is the Iowa assessment. So now this one I got off of a website called Seton or Seton, S-E-T-O-N, testing.com. So this is the Iowa test, and this is why I like this test better, because look how much information I got. It's multiple pages of a report, and I'll go over it and explain to you what this all means. Again, I have videos explaining all of this on my page. But basically, my kid sat down to take the test, and this was last year. And it says what her reading total is. So again, you see her score, and you're like, well, what does that mean exactly? The most important part is the percentile. So national percentile ranking, she was 95th percentile for reading. That means she did better than 95% of all the kids that took this test at that age in that grade level that year. And then there's a key at the bottom that tells you what all these scores mean, but the percentile is really what I'm looking at. Her language arts total, 96th percentile, and then it even breaks it down into all the different areas of reading and language arts, right? So you can see here her vocabulary was like off the charts, okay? So all the scores going across. It even tested her on social studies, mathematics, listening comprehension. I mean, the Iowa assessment really hit every single little thing. Then it breaks it down even further. So here's the different things she was tested for, and then where she ranks in comparison to kids her age. So when you look at this, like here, she's 81st percentile for word analysis. That was her lowest score. So I would consider that maybe somewhere where we would want to, I don't know, pay attention to in the future. And then the last page that I'll show you, again, this is the Iowa test that you can order for your homeschooled kid. This one is kind of like a description of what all the words mean, right? So like I was saying before, percentile rank, a score from 1 to 99 indicating the percentage of students in a particular group that scored at or below a particular score. So this test, the Iowa assessment, gives you this big old fat report telling you exactly where your kid is at. If they are below the 50th percentile in something, so let's say your kid took this test and they got, 25th percentile for word analysis. That's your clue. You want to focus on that area in your reading, right? The word, their vocabulary, their word analysis, that's what they were struggling with. So anyways, that's the Iowa test. Let me flip this camera back around and I'll go through and look at some of these questions. Okay. Now the MAP test that somebody was asking about that got us on that tangent, the MAP test also provides like a similar score report, not as detailed though. I will say that. That's why I prefer the Iowa test. Okay, so Farrell, brilliant field note. Why did you do the Iowa assessment over others like CAT testing? So I actually did the MAP and the Iowa in the same year because I wanted to compare the scores. The reason why I did not do the CAT testing, so CAT testing is the California Achievement Test, I believe, and that test, from what I have been told, I have not taken it, is a little bit on the easier side. Now that's good. If you're in a state that you have to submit test scores at the end of the year, that might be one that you want to do, right? Because your kids' scores are going to look a little higher. But I wanted a real raw look at like, where does my kid actually excel and where does she struggle? I didn't want an easy test. So that's why I didn't do the CAT test. Now, if somebody in here has taken the CAT test and you feel like that's not the case, let me know. Because like I said, I'd never taken it personally, but I've heard that the CAT test is easier. Okay, Claudia said, what assessment would you recommend if I live in Houston, Texas? So Claudia, just to, if you may or may not know, but in your state, you don't have to do any assessments. Like this is the map that you see here. Texas, you have very lax homeschool laws. But if you're asking, like you just want to take the test to have the test, I always recommend that Iowa assessment that I was just showing you right here. Iowa, I-O-A-W assessment, or the MAP, M-A-P test. Those are my two favorites. And then IXL, which is an online program, they have a diagnostic test. It's not a state assessment. It's not like a national standardized test or anything. But they do have a diagnostic test that will tell you where your kid is at. Like what grade level are they performing on for reading or for math or for science. Will Iowa work for Georgia? I don't think I have the Iowa assessment in my link thing, but I know I have videos where I'm like going over every single test option, and I might have put a link in there. I don't know. Now Georgia though, like in the state of Georgia, I'm gonna pull Georgia up real quick because I get a lot of questions about Georgia. When you look at the map, Georgia is a light blue color, which means you have some laws but nothing crazy. And then when you look at the Georgia, can you see that? I know it's backwards, I'm so sorry. The Georgia assessment requirements, it says yes. So when you click on assessment requirements for Georgia, it will tell you whether or not you can choose your test. And it says right here, in the state of Georgia, your child must be tested at least every 3 years, beginning at the end of the 3rd grade. So if your kid is in kindergarten, 1st or 2nd grade in Georgia, then just chill, right? You don't need to do the testing. But starting in 3rd grade, every 3 years, which is interesting. So I guess 3rd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade. You may administer the test if you do this in consultation with a person trained in the administration and interpretation of norm reference tests. And that is in quotation marks. So take that as you will. Test results do not have to be submitted to public school officials. Click here to learn more about testing and evaluation options. Again, Georgia is one of those like weird ones. Oh, and then it goes into all the different tests. So it sounds to me like you don't even need to submit the scores. You just have your kid take the test. That's kind of like how it is here in North Carolina too. We have our kid take the assessment, and then we just kind of like hold on to the scores in case anybody were to ask. Alicia, you said it used to be yearly in Georgia. Did you get like a new governor or something weird recently? I wonder. I don't know. This is the HSLDA website too. So this is not like the Georgia School District Department of Education website. This is the legal website with the state laws on here. Okay, you said we did the CAT and MAPS testing. CAT wasn't hard, but not easy at the same time down the middle. So that's good. Like sometimes I will tell you, I think that the Iowa assessment is harder than the MAP. Like I think the Iowa assessment was testing on things that were above level compared to the MAP test. When my now 23-year-old was homeschooled, oh, it was yearly. Yeah, they must have changed it now. Every 3 years, that's so random. See, I like to test my kids every year because I want to see the growth, or like maybe my kid was doing really well with vocabulary last year and then her test scores dropped this year. So like, did we miss something? Do we need to go back and review something? What about Illinois? So I think Illinois is pretty lax. Yeah, Illinois, you're a green state here on the map. And it says that you do not need to notify your state. You just can start homeschooling. You don't need any teacher qualifications. You don't have to have like a degree or anything to homeschool your kid in Illinois. You do not have to do any state testing. You do not have to provide your vaccination records. The only thing you have to do in Illinois, it says state mandated subjects. So that means you can't just teach whatever subjects you want. You have to teach language arts, math, biological and physical sciences. That's just science. Like, don't let the words freak you out. Social sciences, which is like social studies, okay. Fine arts, art. And then physical development and health. So like your normal school subjects in the state of Illinois. Other than that, you're pretty free in Illinois. You don't have, there's not many things you have to do at all. Yeah. But again, like it might be lax now and then you get a new governor and everything changes. Yeah, that's the thing about. Amber said, what about Hawaii? I think we looked up Hawaii last week because I remember being like, what? I don't think we've ever looked up Hawaii before. All right, Hawaii is a dark blue state here on the map. I'm going to kind of like hold it. Hawaii, you do have to notify your school district, so you can't just like randomly start homeschooling. You have to submit a letter of intent or something letting them know. You don't need any teacher qualifications in Hawaii, so like you don't have to have a degree to homeschool your kid. And you do have to take a state assessment. So when we click on Hawaii, it'll specify what you need to do for the testing. It says you have to submit annual progress reports in Hawaii for grades 3, 5, 8, and 10. Okay, so it's not testing, but you do have to provide progress reports. That's in Hawaii. All the years of me doing these lives, not a single person has ever asked about Hawaii until last week. And then somebody else just asked. That's so funny. Pennsylvania. So when you look at the map, everybody always gets freaked out because these states up here in the dark red, like you see the red and you're like, oh no, Pennsylvania is one of the red ones, but that's okay. When you click on Pennsylvania, it'll pull up, it'll give us like a little more insight. So Pennsylvania is red because there's just a couple, more things you have to do to homeschool. So in the state of Pennsylvania, you do have to provide notification. So you have to have a letter of intent or something that says you're homeschooling. You do have specific subjects that you need to teach, and then you do have to provide your vaccination records in Pennsylvania as well. I cannot speak for exemptions. Like every state is different with their exemptions with the vaccination records. Some states that say you have to provide your vaccination records will allow exemptions to cover that. So you just have to look in. I know like California is one of those weird ones. Okay, Nicole, you're in Florida and you have a third grader. So specifically like for curriculum, it totally depends on your kid. Every kid is different. If you're looking for something like book style, like actual physical workbooks that your kids write in, like we use Christian Light Education. That's our main one that we use. And also 5 in a Row is the new one that we started. But if you want something online, like you don't want to do the bookwork, you don't want to have to plan anything, you just want to go online, tons of different options out there. Just off the top of my head, like Time for Learning, Acellus Academy, Becca, Beast Academy, Monarch, Mia Academy, all these academies. They're all online programs. K-12 is one too. It's like an online private school almost that some parent, I just had a meeting with a parent earlier today that's using that. But it's so hard to know, like totally depends on your kid, right? So like if your kid is a book style type kid, or maybe you want to mix, right? Some online, some book work. That's how we do it. Like if you look, this is our schedule. I'm sorry, the sun is like blaring right here. I'm sorry. But when you look, I have like our subjects listed down here. And then you can see like when my daughter gets on Mia Academy, that's her online time. But then before she gets online, we do our Christian Light Education lesson together. So I do a mix of both online and book work. The website that you saw here, this is called HSLDA. It's Homeschool Legal Defense Association. And it's a free website. Now, some people see on there, it's like, oh, membership. That's only if you need legal advice. Like, it's a team of lawyers that support homeschooling families, and they're really up to date with like the most recent laws and bills being passed. So unless you need actual legal advice, you can just go on the website. The website's free. Does Indiana require attendance? All right, let's look at Indiana. So Indiana is a green state on the map, which is good, meaning you don't have a lot to do. Indiana, nope. You have it like super easy in Indiana. I'm just going to scroll through just to make sure. The only thing that it cares about in Indiana is that you're teaching in English. So like providing your homeschool instruction in English. And then also in Indiana, it does say to adhere to your public school days, meaning the public school teaches for 180 days out of the year. You should be teaching 180 days out of the year as well. This is for Indiana. And then that's it. No attendance. So you were asking specifically about attendance. Now, some states do require attendance. And everybody asks me like, well, how do you do attendance when you homeschool? Okay, my schedule that I use, okay, and by the way, I'm not selling anything. TikTok, educational purposes only. This one is on my website. You just download it. It's free. This schedule is my attendance. So I can see right across the top the dates. This is my March one right here from last March. So I know that we did school on March 17th, March 18th. So if the state ever wanted to see my attendance records, I would literally just pull out my schedule, right? So it's not like I'm not calling my kids' names each day and checking off their name for roll. It's not like that. It's just show what days you homeschooled. We are on track to hit 180 days the end of May if you begin at June. That's exactly how we are. Like we homeschool year round. I think I just posted, if you all have seen this video, this is I know it looks crazy, but I swear there's a method. We start school in August and we end that year in July. And that gets us to pretty much 180 days, and that's with us taking all these breaks. All these little orange highlighted weeks are breaks, and because we're schooling year round and we're not taking like a big summer break or anything, we're able to get the whole thing done in that 180 days. So Jenny, it sounds like as long as your main instruction, she's asking about Indiana. So she's asking, can I do bilingual stuff in Indiana because they have that weird thing about teaching everything in English? It sounds to me like you could do foreign language lessons and include, and how would they know any? This is what's so weird to me. Like, how do they know if you're teaching your kid in Spanish or English? Because they're not checking in on you in Indiana, but that is one of the rules. Provide equivalent instruction in the English language. So that doesn't mean you can't teach your kid Spanish or a foreign language, but they want your core curriculum instruction to be taught in English. And I'm wondering if they're saying that because, like, I'll tell you, when I was a teacher, one of the hardest things, especially in Florida, we had a lot of non-English speakers come in, you know, first grade, second grade. These poor babies are starting to learn how to read, and they're just in this class full of kids that don't even speak their language. And so as a teacher, it was wild. Like, okay, I'm going to teach the class in English. It's the only language that I know. But then I'm going to sit down with this little sweetheart who doesn't know a lick of English and try to provide that same instruction. So my thought is that Indiana and certain states are saying that because if that homeschool child does need to go back into the school system, they know a little bit of English. You haven't been teaching them in Spanish or Chinese or whatever all these years. I think maybe this is like a selfish way of the schools kind of protecting themselves. My opinion. I don't know for sure. We are basically taking all of this month off. So we used to, that's how we were. Like if you look at this, the month of December, we took, this is last year, right? So here's December, off, 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 off. We basically took the whole month off. But I swear, as my kids are getting older, we cannot take big breaks anymore. Like even a week break to them, it's like when they come back, they've lost their minds. So even like, I know I sound like such a Scrooge saying this, but even this Christmas, I think, what is Christmas on a Thursday this year maybe? I think we're gonna like only take off Christmas Eve and Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day after Christmas Day, and not take off a whole bunch because I just feel like my kids cannot handle it. We're Cherokee. Yep. Cherokee. Okay, Texas is super easy. Like somebody was asking for Texas, and by the way, I know the comments are coming in so quick, so if you are asking something and it's just, the comments are just flying by, so just keep putting them in there, and eventually, hopefully, I will catch it. So Texas is one of the best states to homeschool in because there's very little that you have to do. The only thing that Texas cares about are state mandated subjects, meaning you can't just teach whatever subject you want. You can't omit certain subjects. You have to make sure that you're teaching math, reading, spelling and grammar, and a course in good citizenship. But you are not submitting test scores or anything. You're not submitting a schedule, but it's kind of like the honor system. So Texas people, you're supposed to be teaching those subjects. You can't go all year and only teach reading and not math. You have to be hitting those subjects in Texas. Other than that, that's it. Like, that is literally how easy it is in Texas. Before we moved here to North Carolina, Texas is one of the states that I was looking into specifically for their homeschooling laws. Florida is great too. Like, if you're homeschooling in Florida, the only thing that sucks is if you're not on that PEP scholarship, then you have to do the evaluation at the end of the year. But I do those evaluations for families. Super easy. We meet, you show me some of your kids' work. A lot of parents email it to me ahead of time. Boom, I sign a paper, we're done. The only thing you have to do is prove that your child has made growth. And that's such a vague term too, like growth in what? Like, I had a kid recently who was not potty trained at the beginning of the year, and by the end of the year, he was potty trained. That is growth. I'm talking about the state of Florida. They want to show growth. It does not have to be in a specific area. It could be social emotional. A lot of kids that are in like ABA therapy that have those goals in place count as your growth in the state of Florida as well. We school year round. I only do 2 lessons a day plus sight words. And that, Courtney, that is exactly what we're doing. Like, every single day, Monday is math, Tuesday is language arts. Wednesday is math, Thursday is language arts. We alternate so that I'm not doing a million subjects all in one day. And somehow we're still getting it. All right, South Carolina. Somebody was asking about South Carolina. So I'm going to click on South Carolina. Again, this is like, anybody can just go to this website and look this up. And I'm just reading through these basic ones right here. So in South Carolina, you do have to have some teacher qualifications. So let's just click on that and see what exactly they want you to do, which also it looks like you have a couple options for homeschooling. Okay, so this is state of South Carolina. You do have to submit a letter of intent, like, hey, I'm going to homeschool. And it also says that your application to homeschool can be rejected. That is interesting. Okay, if you're in South Carolina and you want to homeschool your kid, you do need to have a high school diploma or GED or bachelor degree. So you have to, some states are like that, where you have to have at least a high school diploma. In South Carolina, you have to cover 180 days per school year, and each school day has to be 4.5 hours. God, they're like, that's so annoying when they try to tell you how many hours you need to homeschool. South Carolina, you also need to have some records, like a plan book or some kind of written record showing what you're teaching each day, samples of your child's work, and their like progress, how they're doing. And then also in the state of California, you do need to do annual testing, but it says, interesting, the test must be administered by a certified school district employee. And then it looks like there's a spot you can click on to like schedule. That is, gosh, I feel like South Carolina should be like a red state. That's a lot of, do we have any South Carolina people in here? Like, besides obviously who was asking. That's like really obnoxious. North Carolina, so we just moved here to North Carolina, and I will tell you, like, we are a dark blue state, meaning that we do have some laws that we have to adhere to, but it's nothing crazy. So in North Carolina, we do have to submit that letter of intent to the school board saying, hey, we're homeschooling, don't expect my kid in your school this year. And then you also do have to have teacher qualifications in North Carolina. So I'm just going to scroll through this real quick. If you're homeschooling your kid in North Carolina, you do have to have at least a high school diploma or GED, of course. You need to be schooling at least 9 months out of the year. So if you're like me, I homeschool year round. We don't take like a big summer break or anything. That is okay. Like, some families ask me, oh my gosh, it has to be 9 months out of the year. I can't do year round. That's not what this means. Yes, you can still homeschool year round. They want to just make sure you're at least getting 9 months. So that's the key word right there, is at least. So again, this is North Carolina. Now, North Carolina, you do keep attendance. There's a attendance form on here, but you don't have to use it. It says it's not mandatory. You can use your own. Also, North Carolina, vaccination records, okay? Again, exemptions, that's a whole different thing, but you do have to provide something. And then North Carolina, we do have to do state testing yearly. But listen to this. This is how weird it is. For 1 year after the testing, your child's test scores must be kept available at the principal's office, which is us, the parent, of your homeschool for inspection by the North Carolina School Board. But then it goes on to say that basically they don't have the right to come into your home and ask. So like you'll see that a lot with homeschool laws, like they'll put the law out there like, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that, but then it'll have like a little like fine print at the bottom like, oh, by the way, the law actually says they can't come do this. And so that's why this website's nice, because it's a team of lawyers that are picking apart these laws essentially, and they're able to tell you. That's why you can pay to like have their advice. They'll tell you like, hey, the homeschool law says this, but actually legally they can't do this, if that makes sense. The school boards try to kind of like weasel their way in and like stick things here when they're going against like your state's constitution, for example. We're Cherokee. Yeah, this is Cherokee. All right, Leslie, I know these, I'm so sorry. These comments are going so fast. Okay, so somebody's asking about social studies and science. I'll keep my laptop here and we keep looking up states too. So this is the first year for social studies. The sun is blinding me. Social studies and science, I'm not doing a separate social studies and science curriculum. I am using the 5 in a row. So this 5 in a row it includes science and social studies. We read a book together every day of the week, and then within that book, I'm pulling out lessons that are in this teacher's guide here. And so, for example, today with my 3-year-old, I also have the version for my 3-year-old. Look at this book. Does anybody know this book? I'm gonna show, you're gonna like, does anybody know this? It's Angus Lost. It was written in 1932, okay, 1932. This is why I love this curriculum so much. It's pulling classics. So this is Angus Lost. It was written in 1932. I read this together with my kids, and then I go into my teacher's guide, and there are lessons to go along with this book. And today's lesson was all about safety with dogs. This is a lesson that I would never think to sit down and do with my kids. And we went through, right here in the teacher's guide, like what happens when you see a dog in the park and you approach it. Now, my kids know you ask the owner, hey, can I pet your dog? But this went so deep into like, okay, well, what if the owner says yes and you reach your hand out and the dog's hair stands up on the back of its neck? Or if a dog is eating food or eating a bone, should you go and pet it? Like, so wholesome, all just from this one cute little story, Angus Lost. It's the cutest story ever. And so the list of books that this curriculum has, they're all classics. They're old classics that I got off eBay, thrift stores, garage sales, flea markets, and then the lesson plans are in here. This is covering our social studies and science. Okay, so I'm not doing a separate social studies and science this year. How do you know where to start? Do you mean with this or just in general? This one, the 5 in a row curriculum, it goes by volumes. So like this says volume 1, and then it also says an age range. So see right there, it says ages 5 to 9, if that's what you're asking, like how to get started with that. What do I think about All About Reading? So, oh, is that Vanessa? Hey, Vanessa. So I have not personally used All About Reading, but that is the one that I do know that it uses the Orton-Gillingham method, which is really good for kiddos that have dyslexia. And even if your kid's not dyslexic, like the Orton-Gillingham method for teaching phonics is super effective anyways. The one thing that I did not like about All About Reading when I was looking at it was it has like these little letter tiles, okay? And they're manipulating and they're moving the letter tiles. And me personally, I don't like a whole bunch of stuff. Like, that's why Christian Light Education to me, like we sit down, you know, they do their phonics, super old school, do their phonics. There's some flashcards that we do together every day. So like we do the lesson in the light unit, you know, we flip through these flashcards, we go through the sight words. I don't have a bunch of little letter tiles and stuff that I have to move around. So that's the only thing I didn't like about All About Reading. Somebody in here earlier, though, was saying that the All About Reading company who created All About Reading has recently come out with an All About Math. So if you are somebody that likes All About Reading, or you like that company and that style, apparently they've now come out with an All About Math. So that might be something cool to look into. That's why I'm considering it, but I'm scared to try it. We have only ever used Abeka. How are you doing with Abeka, Vanessa? Because I remember when we talked last year and you were like, I don't know, I'm like struggling. Because if you can handle Abeka, you can handle anything. And I love Abeka. We used Abeka for the year, as you know. And if we could afford to continue with Abeka, I'd be doing Abeka. But it is a lot. It is a lot. Wait, somebody said, thank you for the post with the math flashcards. Yay! Yeah, listen, I am a freak for flashcards, which is probably why I love Christian Light Education so much, because it's like literally, every day is the same structure. Sit down, we'll do our little sight word flashcards. Everything is in order. This is not random. The math is the same way. Math flashcards every single day. And that's not the only curriculum that does that. There's lots of homeschool curriculums that have flashcard systems. But, you know, I'm just old school. And if you don't have to buy flashcards with your curriculum, you just use note cards. Make your own flashcards. I have not used the ACE curriculum, but I've been told, is that like the ACE PACE, where it's kind of like Christian Light Education, where it's the individual workbooks? I am a fan of the individual workbook style curriculums. Okay, Heather's asking about Horizons. I have Horizons here. We were all in on the Horizons Phonics and the Horizons Math for my kindergartner. So I have the full curriculum here. We stopped this about halfway through. It became very overwhelming, which is so crazy for me to say, because Horizons, I usually talk about how gentle this is. It's only 1 page a day, which is true. But it's not like with Christian Light where you do 2 pages of review. This is like review a couple things and then jump into the new stuff. This is like more a whole page of review and then we start doing the new stuff. So we stopped the Horizons kindergarten. Again, that could just be my kid. Like, she just could not handle the pace and getting this new information. Good and the Beautiful is like that too. So if you've got a kiddo who can't handle this like messy, unorganized style, The Good and the Beautiful is not going to be a good fit for you. That's when I know I feel like such a Scrooge, because you hear me talk so bad about The Good and the Beautiful all the time, but it really is not good. It's just not good. I'm so sorry. Can you please tell me what West Virginia? Okay, let's look up West Virginia. Sorry, I forgot about our states here. So, and hopefully you can hear me okay. My hair is covering this microphone. West Virginia is dark blue, so you will have some things to adhere by. It looks like you do need to submit a letter of intent. So when you hear me say that word letter of intent, all that means is you're just filling out a form and you're submitting it to your school district to say, hey, I'm homeschooling my kid. I have a copy of one on my website you can download if you want. Educational purposes only. I'm not selling anything. TikTok, this is not sponsored, nothing like that. Okay, West Virginia. You have a couple options, it looks like. So you do option 2, submitting notice of intent. Let's do this. Notice of intent in West Virginia. Okay, so if you're homeschooling your kid in West Virginia, you do need to have at least a high school diploma or GED, of course. You do need to file that letter of intent. All it needs to have is your kid's name, address, and age. Again, I have a copy of one of those. I mean, you could just use a Word. You could just type one up with a Word document if you want. I have a copy if you want that. And then, oh, and by the way, you need to make sure you're submitting that letter of intent before you start homeschooling. So be ready with that. If you're going to pull your kid out of school, you want to make sure you have that ready. This is West Virginia, by the way. Okay, West Virginia, you do need to assess your child. That means test your child each year and hold on to those results for 3 years. So you just, put them on a shelf somewhere, keep it in your email for up to 3 years. But what's cool is in West Virginia, you have 4 options for testing. So you can do the public school testing. You can do your own testing at home with a standardized achievement test. You can even do a portfolio check, like where a teacher, it's kind of like Florida, where you can check your child's portfolio with a certified teacher. Or any academic assessment that will show proficiency. That's a lot of words, but that is for West Virginia specifically. And then also, I just want to, with West Virginia, because it is a dark blue state, which means you have some things you got to do, you do not have to provide your vaccination records for West Virginia. And don't let the vaccination record thing freak you out. Like, the exemptions still stand for that. BJU curriculum. So we paid a lot of money for BJU a couple years ago. Some of you might remember if you've been with me for a while. And the online BJU was not user-friendly for my kid. Like, she kept calling me in. She'd click out of the lesson, couldn't get back in. It was just a mess. I prefer a Becca online over BJU personally. Again, every kid is different. You never know. But we struggle with BJU. It was just not, I don't know. This one, somebody was asking too about this is also, all these little old school looking Amish pictures when you see me hold these, this is all Christian Light. Now this is a teacher's guide. So a lot of you ask, like, how do I know what to teach my kid? Like, I'm gonna homeschool my second grader or my kindergartner, like how do I know? The teacher's guides, not just this curriculum, all the curriculums, this is a script. Like, you open your guide and it tells you what to say to your kid. And then, of course, you don't have to adhere to that script. You can go off on your own tangents or whatever. But the teacher's guides are going to show it to you line by line. Now, some teacher's guides are better than others. Like, I will admit, the Horizons teacher's guide is not the best. One good thing about The Good and the Beautiful, even though I told you I didn't like The Good and the Beautiful, this is their preschool, but they do it for all the levels. You don't have a separate teacher's guide. The Good and the Beautiful, you have your student workbook, and the script where you're speaking to your child is right in the same book that they're writing in. Some people like that, some people don't, but you're gonna be okay. Like, if you are worried about not knowing what to teach your child, even in the high school levels, chemistry, high school chemistry teacher's guide, line by line, script of what to say to your kid, you're gonna be okay. Or go online. Do an online curriculum. Like, if you just want to be hands-off, you're like, I'm too intimidated by this, I don't want to read a teacher's guide, I don't want to teach my kid chemistry, go find an online curriculum. Like, there are so many options out there. Yes, Vanessa, message me. For sure, for sure. Okay, so Audrey, The Good and the Beautiful, I have a lot of videos on my page where I go in depth. Like, I have videos of me with The Good and the Beautiful open like this and other curriculums right next to it, and I'm comparing and showing you how much The Good and the Beautiful is lacking. My biggest issue with it is how unorganized the scope and sequence was, which means like the order of what your child is learning. So the math, I mean, I could actually show you right here. Where is the math Good and the Beautiful that I was showing you all earlier? The math Good and the Beautiful was the one that I really struggled with because it was like, here it is. This is first grade math Good and the Beautiful, okay? So I'm just gonna show you an example, and again, I have this all in videos where I walk you through exactly what my issue was. I just turned to a random lesson. Lesson 59, addition stories. So they're doing story problems for addition. Sounds great, right? By the way, the Good and the Beautiful lessons are only like 1 page long. That was another issue I had, okay? Then, remember, that was lesson 59. I'm not pulling your leg here. 59, addition stories. When you go the next day to lesson 60, you are moving on to telling time, morning, afternoon, and night. So this is an example of, like, it's the spiral method. So yes, you're supposed to learn something new each day, but it takes forever to cycle back around to those addition stories to where your kid's forgotten it by the time you get back to it. It kind of felt all over the place to me. However, I will say, in defense of The Good and the Beautiful, I know a lot of families that use this curriculum, love it, do well with it. I think it kind of depends on what else you're doing with it. Like, I can't imagine you only doing The Good and the Beautiful and nothing else and your kid being on grade level. I just don't see that. You'd have to be kind of doing something else on the side. A lot of classical conversations co-op families will use The Good and the Beautiful, and that makes sense to me because you're getting your co-op time together, but then you're doing this on the side. I could see you being successful with that. Okay, hands-on lessons. So if you are looking for a hands-on curriculum, there is one I always forget to tell you guys about, and I feel like I have a flyer in here that I could show you. When I went to a homeschool convention a couple years ago, there was a company called Blackbird and Co. So like if you write that down or type it or whatever. Blackbird and Co. Like Blackbird and Company, but it's just Blackbird and Co. They have a fully hands-on, it's expensive, but if you got the money, it's worth it. Like kindergarten, for example, your kid's learning all 26 letters of the alphabet. Today we're learning the letter B. The curriculum has a box of B letter objects, right? A ball, a bat, a butterfly, all hands-on physical things that your kid can touch. So they're learning that the letter B says B, and they are touching a butterfly, and they're touching a ball, and and it's all included with the curriculum. Because it has so much involved in it, it's expensive. That's why we could never do it. But that's called Blackbird and Co. If you want a hands-on, it's Montessori-based curriculum, that one is super cool. I want to say it only goes up to like, it doesn't go all the way to high school last I checked, but if you got a younger kid, I think maybe up to 5th grade, maybe further, that's one to look into. Okay, Sydney, how do you make sure not to miss anything or have your educational neglect? So there are a couple ways you can do this, and this hopefully will bring so much relief to people because this is a freaky part of homeschooling. Like, okay, your kid's in 3rd grade. How do I know that they're getting everything they need for the 3rd grade? So first thing is to find out your state standards. And as weird as this is, it's going to be different. What my 3rd graders learning here in North Carolina might be different than what kids in California in the 3rd grade need to know. Totally depends on your state. So when you look up your state standards, it's literally just like Google Florida state standards for 3rd grade math. It'll be a whole list of everything a 3rd grader should know for math in the 3rd grade, and it's very overwhelming as a parent to look at. But this is where I'm trying to hopefully bring you some relief. That is why curriculums, teacher's guides, save you, because you don't ever need to worry about missing anything. It's all laid out like this. This is just the front of a teacher's guide. This is Christian Light, but all the teacher's guides are the same. This is called a scope and sequence. It tells you every lesson and what your child is going to be learning in that lesson. So you're not skipping anything. I don't recommend, starting a curriculum in the middle of the book because then you're obviously missing stuff. But as long as you're following a plan, you're going to be golden. Another thing is if you're not sure, like if your kid's in school and you want to pull them out and your kid's in 3rd grade, so you're like, okay, I'm going to pull them out and I'm going to buy a 3rd grade curriculum. Don't just assume that your kid is on the 3rd grade level just because they were in 3rd grade in the public school system. You want to pull them out and you want to test them. And that's where we were talking earlier, like the MAP test, the Iowa test, the IXL diagnostic test, any of those tests. Have your kid take that test and see, are they really on the 3rd grade level, or do I need to bump them back to 2nd grade or to kindergarten? Don't freak out if you have a 5th grader who needs to go back to kindergarten phonics. It happens all the time. All the time. All the time. Oh, Clarissa, you do BJU, the teacher-led. So I think teacher-led would probably be better for me too because their online just was like crazy. What about Acellus Academy? So we looked into Acellus. It's still one that's on my list for like the middle school, high school years. Acellus is an accredited program, meaning that at the end of completing the Acellus online program, your child will get a high school diploma from an accredited institution, an official diploma, if you will. So that is the pro to going with an accredited program. Abeka has an accredited program. Lots of curriculums have accredited programs. Typically, they're going to be more expensive. So Acellus Academy is very expensive in my opinion. But if you didn't care about the accredited part, you're like, I'm going to get my own diploma anyways. I don't need to do an accredited program. Acellus Academy has a non-accredited version called Power Homeschool. We're going to try that one. I'm just going to try. I just want to see. We're not moving away from Christian Light yet. We're going to eventually move into an online program for middle school and high school probably. And Power Homeschool / Acellus is one that I'm looking into. But again, Abeka, I just love Abeka so much. I know that's controversial. Like a lot of people get very angry with me when I say I love Abeka, but I do. It must be the ex-teacher in me or something. Oh, yay, Chelsea, congrats. That's exciting. Okay, so social studies. Madison was asking about 2nd grade social studies. I was saying earlier that this is the first year that I am not doing a separate social studies curriculum on its own. I am doing all of my social studies and science through 5 in a row. So this is where I read a story with my child, and this has the science and social studies lessons that go with that lesson. So for example, oh my gosh, I want to show you guys something. So remember earlier I was telling you with the 5 in a row, I read this cute little story with my kid, and then there was a lesson in here about safety with dogs. That's kind of like a social studies lesson, right? Okay, well check this out. I have to find it. Today, with my older daughter, hold on, I got crap everywhere. We did, the story that we're reading this week takes place in Russia. Here it is, look. The story that we read this week takes place in Russia. And so, again, somebody's asking, like, what do you do for science? What do you do for social studies? The story takes place in Russia. So when we got done reading the story, straight out of my 5 in a row teacher's guide, the lesson was right there, we actually had a Russian skyline. So we learned all about Russian architecture. My daughters colored and cut out these little Russian bulbs to go on top of their buildings. We also colored the flag of Russia. So this whole week, just from reading that one cute little bear story that happened to take place in Russia, every single lesson we did had to do with learning about Russia. So we're getting our science, we're getting our social studies, all just from reading that one story. So when you hear me, it's all over my channel because this is what we started, this 5 in a row. It tells you what story you're reading, you choose what week you want to read it, and then you pick what lessons you want to pull from there. So again, like today, I knew we were going to do the Russian skyline thing. It had the little worksheet, like look at this. Again, I'm not selling anything, I'm not affiliated with these people, I'm just showing you a really cool curriculum. There's those little Russian tops of the buildings. I just printed this right off I made a copy of this, the kids colored it, and made little Russian skylines. So anyways, that's a long way of saying I don't do a separate social studies and science curriculum. I use 5 in a row to cover all those extra things. Saxon math, so Lena is asking, what do I think about Saxon math? It's a reputable math curriculum. I would take that over the Good and the Beautiful any day. It can be a little heavy sometimes, and that is also one that is used in a lot of private schools. So you might get like a school vibe from it, if you will. Like it looks like a big school textbook. The good thing about Saxon math is if you're using Saxon math, there is a woman on YouTube, I think she goes by Nicole the Math Lady. She does all the lessons on her YouTube channel that go along with the Saxon math. So like if you're feeling a little lost as the homeschooling parent, you can go find her channel and she can kind of teach it to your kid and it goes along with the Saxon. But I have not personally done Saxon myself. Somebody was asking about 5 in a row for daycare. Yes, like especially this one. So if you've got littles, this is called before 5 in a row. So this one, it has the age range in the front. So like this is for age, the sun, 2 through 4. So before 5 in a row is ages 2 through 4. And they have the sweetest stories. Like I said, this is the Angus Lost one about the little dog that gets lost. I read this story with my 3-year-old today. If I had a daycare, I would get all the books that go along with it. And every day you have a lesson plan to do with your littles. And it's so simple. I'm not going out. I'm not buying a million things to do science projects and art projects. It's just so basic. Math is not my strong subject. Me either. Me either. So one good thing, like Christian Light Education math, which is the one we ultimately ended up with, we have tried every math curriculum, I swear. Math UC, Abeka, CTC Math, which is really good, Beast Academy. We've tried so many math curriculums, but Christian Light Math for me, because again, math is not my strong suit either. This is like so old school, which you could take that either way. Some people like the old school math, some people don't. But like when I'm teaching my daughter how to add double-digit numbers, and you've got too many numbers in the ones place, you carry the 1. Remember, like the old school way of teaching math, carry the 1. That's how this curriculum teaches. I will warn you though that if you're just teaching your kid to carry the 1, you gotta kind of tell them why. So Christian Light, as much as I love it, this curriculum is not really good at explaining the why. Okay, so like, yeah, we're carrying the 1, but it's up to you as the parent. And the teacher's guide touches on it, You can see this is the math teacher's guide. It shows you what your kid's page looks like. This is what you say to your kid. But I feel like I still have to add a lot in to help my kid understand the why behind math. But if math is not your strong suit, the teacher's guide is going to teach you how to do it. Or again, online math curriculums are great too. Yes, Home with Kim, that's what I'm doing. So we do our Christian Light Education math lesson, and then we read the 5 in a row story together, and we do the 5 in a row activity. And then the next day, we do our Christian Light Education language arts lesson, and we don't do math that day, and then we do our 5 in a row story after that. So I'm alternating math and language arts every other day with Christian Light, because this is a heavy duty, takes us forever to finish if we do both subjects every day. Cheapest, so there are free curriculums out there. If you want free, easy peasy all-in-one is a free one. Even the Good and the Beautiful, as much as I don't care for it, if you really are hard up and you just want a quick curriculum that you can print out, or was it? The Good and the Beautiful right here, this is the preschool, but they have all the different levels. You can print their curriculum out for free on their website. At least you used to. One thing too I will say about the Good and the Beautiful, it's called the Good and the Beautiful because it does have these vibrant illustrations and beautiful, beautiful artwork that they include. And that's why a lot of people love this. It's very eye-catching. Look at that. Look how pretty that is, right? It's just the content itself is not good to me. The lesson plans themselves are not good, in my opinion. Delaney, it's just like, I don't know if you were in here earlier when I was saying, it's the order of the lessons are kind of all over the place. So with the Good and the Beautiful, I felt like we were, you know, learning addition one day, and then the next day we're telling time, and then the next day we're doing money, and then we don't go back to addition for several weeks, and it was too messy, in my opinion. How long does it take to legally sign up for homeschool? So it totally depends on your state. The sun is blinding me. Let me turn this way. It depends on your state. So some states you don't have to submit a letter of intent or anything. You could literally start homeschooling tomorrow. Other states you do have to submit a letter of intent. So that map that I was showing earlier, this is going to have your state laws. It tells you if you need to have a letter of intent or if you can just like start. I'm just going to move out of this sun. Ace and Abeka. So I haven't tried Ace, but I love, love, love Abeka. I was saying earlier, if we could afford it, we would stick with it. Abeka's old school too. Like the way that they teach their math and their phonics reminds me of Christian Light. So some people will ask me like, what's better, Abeka or Christian Light? And honestly, they're both great. They just, one's way more expensive than the other. I'm in the homeschool shed right now, by the way. Somebody was asking. Yeah, we're getting, the installation's in and, you know, it's just slow moving. Lamp and Light, I have not used that one, so I can't speak on that one. It was way ahead of our public school, though. Is that with the Abeka? How much do I spend on homeschool curriculum a year? So I have 4 kids, but one's a baby, so she doesn't count. Probably $1,500 between 3 kids. And that's using Christian Light Education for most of the subjects and then 5 in a row for the others. But then if you like think about all your online programs, right? So like the apps that you pay for, learning apps, this is another thing. Some people I saw in the comments were asking about when you homeschool multiple kids, like when you're working with your older kids, what are you doing with your younger kids? The way that I had it rotating before we moved was like my younger kids would be on some kind of learning app. So my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old would be on like Reading Egg, Splash Learn. I have videos showing all of the different apps that we use. And then I'd be working with my oldest daughter. And then when I'm done with my oldest daughter, she would get onto the iPad and do her online apps or whatever while I pull my youngest kids. That is the only, even if you're trying to cut out screen time, honestly, it is the only way that I can get anything done. So I don't want my kids on iPads all day. I totally understand. But when I'm rotating them out like that, if I don't have that iPad with the learning apps going while I'm working with one of my kids, they're just going to keep interrupting me. So just do the screen time. It's 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever. If you're trying to cut out screen time, you can cut it out throughout the rest of the day. Okay. a kindergartner that has been learning at a first grade, second grade level. So that's a little tricky, right? Because when you buy a kindergarten curriculum, I'm going to try to turn so I can show you the kindergarten. Obviously, when you buy a kindergarten curriculum, it's going to be at a kindergarten level for the most part. If you're saying that your kid's already operating at a first grade, second grade level, then kindergarten curriculum might not be your best bet. So a lot of companies, like this one is called Christian Light. There's all different companies out there. Most of the websites have placement tests where you can go to the website, have your kid take a test, and it'll say, hey, they're on a third grade level, or you should start them at a kindergarten level, or whatever. That's the best way to do it. So research the curriculums that you're interested in first, and then go on their websites and see if they have a placement test. Christian Light has a placement test. Horizons, they have a placement test. I don't know if the Good and the Beautiful does. Do they? I know somebody in here can answer that, I'm sure. So Jacqueline, anything that we're talking about here, I guarantee I probably have a video on it going in depth on my page. Like if you just search Heavenly Homeschool testing or whatever, I have playlists on my page and all my videos are organized into playlists. So like if you have curriculum questions, scheduling questions, legal, law type questions, all of it's in separate playlists. How many subjects do I cover each day with 5 in a row? So I'm going to show you my actual lesson plan book that I follow with the 5 in a row. Now you do not need this. This is just me being crazy. So this is our 5 in a row Monday, 5 in a row Tuesday, 5 in a row Wednesday. You get the point. So you can see these little check boxes here. We read the story together. Okay, so this week, I know it's backwards. You know what? Hold on. I want to flip this around so you can like really see. Hold on, let me figure this out. How to flip the camera again. Okay, so 5 in a row. Today, I read, this is the story we were reading together today, Another Celebrated Dancing Bear. After we get done reading the story, day 1 on Monday, we did a little geography discussion, and then we colored that Russian flag that I was showing you in the notebook. So on this day, I got 2 subjects in. Geography, where we looked at the map, we found Russia, and then another geography lesson where we colored the flag. But then look at Tuesday. We read the story again together, and then we did a social studies activity where we talked about different occupations, and then we did a language arts activity where we did drama. We were acting out the parts of the story. So here I was able to hit 2 subjects. If you look over here with my 3-year-old, remember Angus Lost, that cute little book I was showing y'all right here? There's Angus Lost, so I read this with my 3-year-old. And then on my daily plan, I just did 1 little subject with her. We did science yesterday. Today we did different figures of speech, another science activity, that dog safety I was telling you about. So the cool thing about 5 in a row is you decide, do I want to do 1 activity today? Do I want to do 5 activities today? And it depends like what can your kid handle. Totally customizable. Yeah, Kat, you said you do 4 days a week. If you look at my plan, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I left Friday blank. Some weeks we just do the 4 days too. Should I be doing anything else other than kindergarten 1 and 2 from Christian Light? I didn't. When we were doing the Christian Light Education kindergarten, if you're following the teacher's guide. So the reason why I say that, let me find my Christian Light kindergarten. Here we go. Okay, so this is the kindergarten 1 Christian Light. If you're just doing the light unit with the kindergarten, I would feel like, it doesn't feel like it's enough, right? But when you look at your teacher's guide, it actually has so many other activities in here that aren't necessarily in the light unit, right? So look, there's a little science activity about the moons and the stars and the different animals. So even though it's kindergarten, it's still hitting science. This is the Christian Light. And then the teacher's guide also has a singing activity, memory work, singing, motor skills, story time. So all that to say, Christian Light Education Kindergarten, the teacher's guide is going to have all those extra activities in there. Social studies, science, motor skills, PE activities. But if you're only having your kid do the little kindergarten workbooks with Christian Light, you're not going to get everything. You're going to feel like you're missing out. Does reading, spelling, and grammar fall into the same curriculum? Yes. So only with certain curriculums. So for example, I'm going to show you, I'm going to compare. Yes, Christian Light, when you do Christian Light Education Language Arts, here's their language arts, looks like this, language arts. Language arts for Christian Light is covering everything. Your phonics, your punctuation, your grammar, your writing, your spelling. Look, we are doing quotation marks today. She was spelling stuff wrong, so I was circling it. Cursive, right? So this is Christian Light Education. Cursive, language arts includes cursive, you know, capitalizing countries. This is everything. But Good and the Beautiful, now let me show you them. Good and the Beautiful, this is also language arts. I know the cover is different. They've updated the cover. So language arts with the Good and the Beautiful also includes spelling and writing, but they're not getting as much practice. Like, this is all she did for this lesson, was write a couple B's and D's. That was it. So that's what I mean, like the meat and potatoes. Like, I feel like we need more. Abeka, if you're looking into Abeka, they separate their spelling from their writing and their reading. So it depends on the curriculum. Christian Light, it's all included with spelling, grammar, writing, all that in one. Hey, Tam! Is a planner the only thing you need as a parent? Honestly, you don't even need a planner. Like I am finally getting to the point of my homeschool journey where I can just sit down with my teacher's guide and I can open up to the lesson and I can just start teaching, right? It's so nice. But when I was starting out, that's why you see these videos of me with my schedule. I would walk around the house with my clipboard and check off every little thing we were doing, and this was my saving grace. The thing that I was showing you earlier, the 5 in a row planner, for me right now, this is necessary because 5 in a row is new to me, and so I made this because I was just like, and I'm doing it with multiple kids, right? If I was only doing the 5 in a row stories with just one, you know, age group, I probably wouldn't need to plan it all out like this. But because I'm doing it with 2 different age groups, I need this. So it kind of depends on you. You can have a planner, you can not have a planner, whatever works for you. Okay, it's going so fast. 9 weeks pregnant. Oh, yay, congrats. Oh my gosh, Kim, do not feel bad. Like, okay, you can go back and watch I have videos on this too. I had my baby last December. And we took off the entire month of December. Like, I had the baby at the beginning of December, and we took off the entire month of December, and it was the best thing I ever did. Even though I felt like you're feeling like, oh my gosh, we're missing too much. Like, I feel like we're not doing anything. I really did rely on learning apps. We watched a lot of learning shows. We did a lot of, like, fill-in stuff because I felt like you too. But don't feel that way. Like, you can't be the best homeschool parent you can be if you aren't feeling well yourself, so you got to take care of yourself. Oh, Jazz, thank you. I'm going to move this so you guys can see all the you should see, look at this tape. This is all the curriculum just from what I'm showing you today, and this is like nothing. I have just bins and bins and bins of curriculum. I'm obsessed with it. Oh, that sun is still blinding me. Okay. Logic of English. Somebody was asking about Logic of English too, and that one is not, I haven't personally used Logic of English. The only thing that turned me off about it was that it had so many moving parts. Like with Logic of English, there's like letter tiles and all the things you need to be moving around, and it was too overwhelming. Okay, so Amy, you're asking about Ambleside. When I first looked into Ambleside, which is a Charlotte Mason style curriculum, again, where you're like reading a story together and you're pulling lessons from the story, it was very intimidating to me because I felt like it left way too much up to the imagination. I was like, I need a script. I need you to tell me exactly what to say to my kid. I can't handle this like free Charlotte Mason style. But now that I have gotten into the 5 in a row curriculum, which is also Charlotte Mason style, I feel like I want to go back and look at the Ambleside because it's free, number one. And now that I feel a little more comfortable, that might be one that I want to look into. So all that to say, Ambleside to me looks really cool, and anything Charlotte Mason, I feel good about. Okay, so if you have a kiddo with ADHD, which I do, by the way, it's not officially diagnosed, but I know I do, Your best friend is going to be not so much what curriculum you choose, but how you structure your day. So any of these curriculums here, you could use with a kid with ADHD, but like Christian Light, for example, Christian Light is heavy. It's a lot of work each day. My little ADHDer, I think, for Christian Light, we are having to take breaks, which is, typical for a kiddo. Any kid, honestly, is going to need breaks, but especially a kid who's got ADHD, breaking it up, right? So maybe you do a couple pages, they go run around, do another couple pages, go run around. Some kids are even going to need to have it broken up, like you literally do one problem and then take a little break. Do another problem, take another break. And it's going to feel like it's taking forever, but it's not as much about what curriculum you choose as much as it's going to be about like how you're structuring it. And you're your kid's IEP. So like if you have a kid in the school system that has an IEP for ADHD or a 504 plan, whatever they're on, you are going to become that plan for them when you're homeschooling. You're a walking IEP. You're going to put in those modifications and all the things that your kid needs naturally. You don't need a document to tell you that your kid can stand up when they're teaching or when they're learning and when you're teaching. I'm scared to start the Okay, me too. So with the Learning to Read program, when you get halfway through this program, you start the language arts with this. And I know what you're saying, because it's a lot. When you do these two together, I know this says 2, but pretend it's language arts 1. When you do these two together, it is a lot, it is heavy, and I did it with my first daughter, and it's a lot. Now for us, once we finish the Learning to Read program, we don't do reading anymore with Christian Light. We only stick with their language arts, and that's when I start doing reading with the 5 in a row. So that's what's working for me, because as much as I love Christian Light, I don't know if I could handle doing more subjects with Christian Light because it's just so in-depth and thorough, and it takes my kids forever to finish. So that's why I feel like the 5 in a row is like a next like happy medium, or the best happy medium for that. Oh, you're at 104. Yeah, so we are about to finish. This is 103. And now mind you, my kid's only 5. We started her early with this. And yeah, I know once we get to that 105 light unit, that's when we start the language arts. So thank you for saying that. You're reminding me now that I need to go order the level 1 language arts. I am scared. Scared for that. Okay, math, secular, meaning not Christian, not religious, secular math curriculum. There are a lot of good options out there. Beast Academy is the one I was showing you earlier if you were here. This is Beast Academy. They have an online program to go with it. It's comic book style math. It teaches the lesson in a comic. If you're doing the online program, it's the same thing. They have little comics online. And then if you want to do the workbook, you can do the workbook, but most people just use the online program. Secular, non-religious, math, problem-solving math. So it's not your typical math. This is totally different than anything I've ever used, but it's cool. So you could try Beast Academy. The other secular math program, non-religious, non-faith-based, is called CTC, those 3 letters, CTC Math. And it is super cheap. We pay for it monthly, even though we just use it as like a supplement, because they do half off for homeschooling families. I have a coupon on my thing. And I'm not selling it. I'm not affiliated. And then they also do a free trial with that. So that's called CTC Math, secular, non-religious. That's another good. Time for Learning, T4L, Time for Learning, has math. They have all the subjects with that one. And that is non-religious, non-faith-based. Thanks, Joy. So that's the tricky thing. And if you are looking for a curriculum and you fall in love with a curriculum and then you realize, oh, it's faith-based. I didn't want faith-based. I didn't want a Christian curriculum. I wanted secular. That is where it gets frustrating, because you want to find out if the curriculum you're looking at is Christian or secular, or faith-based or secular, before you fall in love with it. Because that is so frustrating. That's happened to me, but the opposite. Like moving beyond the page, this is the one. I fell in love with this curriculum at a convention, moving beyond the page. I was like all in, ready to buy the whole thing. And then when I was looking through the science curriculum, obviously as a Christian, I have a creationist point of view. and it had an evolutionary point of view, which I did not like. So I fell in love with it, and then it wasn't what I wanted. So if you know for sure that you want a Christian-based curriculum or opposite, where you want secular, non-religious, non-faith-based, find out if the curriculum you're looking at is that first before you swipe your debit card. Okay, it's Rosie. Do I do learning to read and math back to back? No, because it took us forever. So the way that I'm doing it is we do our reading curriculum on Monday and we do our math on Tuesday, and then we alternate like that. So like math is Monday, we do this lesson together, and then when we're done with the math lesson, we go into our 5 in a row story. Then the next day, we don't do math at all. We do our reading / language arts, depending on what kid I'm working with, and then 5 in a row lesson. No math on that day. So I'm alternating. Be careful with doing that if you are in a state that requires you homeschool like 180 days out of the year for certain hours per day, because doing it that way is so relaxing, but it's going to take me longer to get through a whole grade level every year, if that makes sense. So I'm doing what's called a block schedule. Math on Monday, no reading. Reading on Tuesday, no math. And I like that as the teacher because I only have to focus on that subject for that day. Downside to that is like if your kid forgets things really easily, they do math on Monday, they don't do it on Tuesday, they go back to math on Wednesday, they forgot what they learned on Monday, so it kind of depends on your kid. But that's in the school system too, right? When I was a teacher, the kids didn't remember anything from day to day. We finished pretty fast, but I think it's too much for her. Ashley, are you talking about with the Christian Light? Oh wait, you said I think I need to do that because my kindergartner does math, writing, language arts, and reading. Are you using Christian Light? For a kindergartner, I would think, because it's all included in their kindergarten, unless you're using a different curriculum. Oh, with the Good and the Beautiful kinder. Yeah, listen, I went through that a whole year of the Good and the Beautiful kinder, so I know exactly what you're talking about. So after the learning to read, you skip the reading with Christian Light and just do the language arts and 5 in a row. Yes, exactly. And it took me 3 years to come up with that system, because we were doing reading and language arts of Christian Light every single day. And I noticed that a lot of repetition was happening between the two. Like we were doing the same phonics skill in reading that we were doing in their language arts, and it felt like we were doubling up. Since with 5 in a row, I'm reading a story with them and we're doing comprehension, I didn't feel like we needed the reading Christian Light. We're only doing the language arts. If you're trying to choose between Christian Light, language arts, and reading, I highly recommend not dropping the language arts. The language arts covers so much. Your language arts, your spelling, your grammar, your cursive writing, if you want your kid to learn cursive, like it's all in that one curriculum. There we go. What is in the reading that is not in the learning to read and language arts? So when you get into Christian Light reading, not learning to read, but the act just reading, it's mostly comprehension. So like they're going to read a story from this book. I'll show you. I just happen to have it right here. Christian Light reading. They read a story in their little reader book, okay? And then they answer a lot of questions that go along with that story. To me, it was like, I don't know if we really need to be doing this. Logic of English is all-inclusive for Logic of English is all-inclusive for English language arts, reading, writing. You can choose manuscript or cursive. Yes, I did see that on their website. I thought that Becca is like that too, where you can choose if you want the curriculum to have printed or manuscript, cursive. And now I'm going to scroll back up. The comments are going so fast. My daughter is all of my kids are doing very well with the block schedule. Now, I will tell you, on the days where I don't have a 5 in a row story plan, like some weeks I didn't have time to plan a 5 in a row story, so we will do math and language arts on the same day. The kids do not like that. They're like, what? We have to do both? Because they're used to the block schedule now. So I'm hoping I'm not making them like lazy, only doing the one subject a day. But the 5 in a row is so wholesome. Like I cannot tell you how good of a program this is. I know I was showing you earlier. Again, I'm not affiliated, I am not associated, I'm not getting paid. This is educational purposes only. I want to just show you guys this, okay? So I was telling you the 5 in a row, we read a story together. The stories are all picked out by the author of this curriculum. They're all classic, good, wholesome stories, okay? I made these little journals for my kids. When we read a 5 in a row story together, whatever the activity is for that day, I have them glue into their notebooks. So you can see with this story, we learned all about China. So they did the Chinese flag, so we're getting our geography. There was a language arts activity where they had to write a story after they read the 5 in a row story. There was an art activity, right? She's gluing it all into her journal here. Here's a science activity we did after we read our 5 in a row story, sink or float. That was a fun little experiment we did together. This is all included in the one curriculum. Look at that, simple machines, the pulley and the lever, and learning all about the different simple machines. And this is all based on the story that we read together. 5 senses, we did a science activity. Again, I'm not doing separate curriculums. This is all just in the one. Here we were talking about nutrition, healthy foods, picking out foods that you want to eat. Here we learned all about different countries, right? The flag of France, the flag of Sri Lanka. I could just go on and on, you guys. Like, I cannot tell you what this has done for our homeschool. Another little art project we did together. And I'm not making this up. Like, this is all in the teacher's guide. Different seasons. What do you see in summer? What do you see in spring? All based on the story that we read that week. And it's all planned out for me. I'm not making these worksheets. This is all in the book for me, and I'm just making copies. This is not, so what I'm showing you here was the 5 in a row Charlotte Mason like book work style curriculum. But Christian Light is what I use for math and for language arts. Thank you, Rosie. This one is the Life Pack. I know some of you were seeing this. Life Pack is similar to Christian Light because it's the separate workbooks. Okay, so Honey Hits Home is asking, is there a secular option that includes everything, like all of the subjects in one program? That is what we would call an all-in-one curriculum. So like big box or all-in-one curriculum. So there is a curriculum that is secular, not faith-based, that you could get all the subjects in one, and that is called Book Shark. So all one word, Book Shark. I think I have a flyer here. Book Shark is another one that I almost bought because it's so good. Book Shark looks like this. I went to a convention where it was like all the different tents and booths set up with the different curriculums. That's why I have all these pamphlets and flyers, if you're wondering. Anyways, Book Shark is super cool. It's kind of like 5 in a row where you read a story every day with your child and then you're pulling lessons from that story. The only difference is Book Shark, you're going to do a separate math curriculum and you're going to do a separate phonics curriculum, but they provide it. Like you can order all of 2nd grade curriculum and it will all come to you in one big box, and that's called Book Shark. Look into this one before you, like, it's not your average curriculum. It's unique. It is a Charlotte Mason style-ish unit study style curriculum, so look into it first, but it's a cool one, and it's not faith-based. It's not religious at all. If you want all of the subjects in one and you want online, Time for Learning, T4L, Time for Learning, is not faith-based. It's not Christian. It is a secular curriculum online that does all of the subjects. Same thing with Mia Academy. So Mia Academy is an online curriculum that covers all of the subjects. Power Homeschool, Acellus Academy, those two, which are the same curriculum, just one's accredited program, also has all the subjects. It's easier to find secular online all-in-one curriculums than it is to find paper book style. Okay, so IXL, thoughts on IXL for Math Online and their workbook. I always recommend IXL for the diagnostic test where you go in and you see like, okay, my kid's gonna take this test and it's gonna tell me exactly where they're at. Are they on 3rd grade level, 5th grade level, where are they at? That's what I love IXL for. Then after you take that diagnostic test, IXL will start assigning you lessons based on how your kid did. And it's all online. It's like an app or a program that you can get on the computer. It is, I mean, I like it, but my kids hated it. They hated it because With IXL, like you get a bunch correct and it's like you're getting excited, you're about to move on, and then you get a couple wrong and it bumps you back. From a teacher standpoint, I love that. Like, yeah, they should not be moving on if they don't understand something. But from the kids' perspective, they get really frustrated. They keep getting bumped back. So for us, I don't think we would use IXL as a full curriculum. A lot of families do though, and it works great for them. Child of God, when is the next homeschool convention? So it depends on your state. Literally just Google homeschool convention near me. The big one in Florida is in Orlando, usually in May, June-ish. IXL made my son cry. We moved on, but the testing is good. Amanda, that's how it was for us. The testing is the best part of IXL. And like, we don't pay for an IXL subscription. What I do is I just pay the $10 for that month. I get the subscription. They take the diagnostic test, and then I cancel my membership. And I just do that a couple times a year. Oh, that's what Mia Academy does to my daughter. Yeah, see, with Mia Academy, my daughter was able to cheat the system. Like, she would take a test and she would do horrible on it. And then she would just go back in and take the test again and just kind of finagle and figure out process of elimination. And I kind of wish like Mia Academy would put like a flag on that. Like, whoa, why are you taking the test 5 seconds after you just failed it? We just moved abroad. We just moved abroad to homeschool. My son doesn't speak English yet. Do you have any recommendations? So we were just talking about this. First of all, you homeschooling. Wait, are you? Did you say you were homeschooling? Hold on. Yes, you're going to homeschool. Okay. I was going to say, best thing you could do. Best thing. All of my families of my non-English speakers when I was a teacher used to tell me all the time, I wish I could just homeschool. Financially, they couldn't do it because it is so overwhelming for that kiddo to be in a classroom full of, 25 kids that speak English or whatever the language might be, and they don't. And then they're trying to learn on top of that. So my advice to you is like, as long as you can continue homeschooling as he's working on those English skills, teaching in your native language, teaching in the language that he understands for now, and then incorporating the English as he's picking it up with that curriculum, I think is amazing. If you're forced to put him in school financially or whatever, and he's not speaking the language, then that's okay. Lots of kids do that, and teachers are trained to handle that. But the more you can infuse at home, it's going to make a world of difference. How can you make income while homeschooling? So a lot of homeschooling moms just work online. So whether you can find a remote position online that has flexible hours, maybe like, for example, I do homeschool evaluations online for families. That's how I make money. And so I am able to schedule those evaluations around my kids' schedule. But if you're working for like a corporate job online where you need to work 8 to 5, that is where a lot of homeschooling families will rely on an online curriculum. So you're working on your computer, right, from 8 in the morning to 5 p.m., and you've got little Johnny next to you working on his computer, doing his curriculum. The only thing is little Johnny's going to finish all his schoolwork in a couple hours where you're working all 8 hours. And that's where you can kind of think, okay, well, how can I finagle our schedule? Okay, little Johnny finished all his work for the day, but I'm still working. So maybe that's where, he has a PE activity outside, or you can play around with it and figure it out. But a lot of homeschooling parents are working full time, or even if you're working out of the house. Like, there are so many, maybe some people in here, put it in the comments if you do this. There are so many homeschooling families who homeschool at non-traditional hours, okay? So maybe you go to work from, 8 in the morning to 3 p.m. and dad's home with the kids. And then when you get home at 3 p.m., you homeschool from 5 to 7 at night. Or a lot of families will homeschool on the weekends. I know that doesn't sound ideal, but like, if you have to work, you have to work. So there are so many ways to make it happen. If you could a lot of parents take their kid to work with them, and that's where an online program would be nice, right? Get them on the computer, put the headphones on, finish your work. When they're done with their work, they can have their free time or whatever, and they're at the office with you. Social media, like a lot of people want, like, oh, can I, make money on social media and be a homeschool mom? Once upon a time, I would have said yes. Like, I was able to make a lot of money on social media, and I don't know, things are just, I don't know if it's me, like my passion for social media has dwindled and therefore I'm not making as much, but I don't know if I would rely on that solely. Like, my husband had to pick up, hey, thank you, a lot of jobs. Like there was one point where he was working his normal job. He was doing Uber Eats at like 5 o'clock in the morning for breakfast, which by the way, if you're considering Uber Eats, the breakfast time was like the hot time, like 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. He would go do Uber Eats and then he would do his normal job. And then when he got off of his normal job, he would go do his junk removal jobs in the evening. I mean, the man was working his tail off, but that's what we had to do to make it work at the time. So it's possible is what I'm trying to tell you. You just might have to, you don't have to homeschool 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. every day or 8 to 2. Like you figure out your own schedule. How long does it take? How long does it take to do a lesson for Christian Light math? Depends on the grade level. For us, we're doing level 1 math, which is first grade math, and we're doing level 2 math, which is second grade math. Looks like that. Hey, Shelby, thank you. This level 1 math. Now, okay, hold on. I need to say something too. I said this earlier. If you are doing Christian Light education, please, please, for the love of God, do not just have the light unit open and they do the lesson in the light unit. You are going to be missing so much if you are just opening the light unit. Okay, little Johnny, here you go. Do numbers 1 through 5. Because your teacher guide, here, I'll show you right here. Your math teacher's guide has a lot of stuff for you to ask your kid, say to your kid, review, a lot of mental math before they even open this book. So when I sit down with my kid for Christian-led education math, they don't even have the light unit in front of them yet. I hold on to this because they'll try to start working ahead. And I'm like, no, no, no. So I hold on to the light unit. In my teacher's guide, there's a warm-up every day. So, for example, I'm just going to literally turn to a random, okay, today, is this level 2? I sat down with my second grader, didn't give her the light unit yet, had my teacher's guide open, and I said, okay, Iris, sit down. Now, Iris, I want you to count by tens from 153 to 243. And so Iris, again, nothing in front of her. She's like, okay, counting by tens, 153, 163, 173, 183, 193, and that's when she gets confused. Wait, 193, 203, 213, 223, 233. And I know this sounds so trivial, but it is so good for their brains. Her sitting there and having to try to figure out, okay, I'm counting by tens. How do I go from 193? Now I got to skip over. Now I'm in the 200s, 203. Anyways, this is what I'm talking about. This curriculum has these kind of like warm-ups, mental warm-ups before you even get into the light unit. Also, before you have your kid do the normal lesson in the Christian Light, they have these things called speed drills in the back, like the old school speed drill where you set the timer and see how many problems they can finish. So we do the mental math warm-up and the speed drill before we even do the actual lesson. Then, once we do the actual lesson, overall it takes us about probably 45 minutes to an hour to finish the full lesson. So the whole point of this, somebody was asking, how long does it take to finish a Christian Light education math lesson? For level 2, for second grade, it takes us about an hour. That is with us doing the mental math warm-up, that is with us doing the speed drill in the back, and then the actual lesson. Level 1 for my first grader takes us about 30, 45 minutes. Okay, so obviously the higher you go in the levels, the more in-depth the lesson becomes. Suggestions on helping with multiplication. Okay, multiplication, your saving grace is going to be teaching them skip counting. Seriously, all multiplication is repeated addition. So if I tell you what's 4 times 7, I'm asking you, how many 4s 7 times, right? 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. If you teach your kid how to count by 4s, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 7 times 4 is 28. And now you're probably asking, well, how do I get my kid to skip count? How are they going to learn that? Songs. There is a guy on, he's on YouTube. His name is Homeschool Helper. If you put those words, and I should know his first name because I would consider him a friend of mine. But anyways, Homeschool Helper, all one word, on YouTube. He has skip counting songs on there that go along with the Classical Conversations curriculum, which you don't need to care about, but if you were wondering, that's where it comes from. And my kid learned how to skip count 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. And now when we do multiplication, she knows 7 times 4, right? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. Okay, now obviously when you're a 40-year-old woman, you don't want to be walking through the grocery store singing a song to do multiplication. That's just the first stage before they start memorizing. So skip counting to learn multiplication, then just straight memorization. Christian Light, I will tell you in the 2nd grade, it's straight memorization. Okay, there's flashcards that go along with this program, and every single day you are practicing multiplication flashcards, and that's how they're learning to multiply with Christian Light education. Okay. Is there a placement test for Christian Light? Yes. So I have a video on my page. If you type into TikTok or YouTube or any of them, Christian Light education placement test, I think I have a couple of videos out there where I'm walking you through the website and showing you how to find the placement test, how to do it, how to interpret the results, the whole 9 yards. It's on there, I promise. I use the cookie and the chocolate chip method for multiplication. Yes, 2 times 4, 2 cookies and 4 chocolate chips. Yep, perfect. I like the cookie. I like that you specifically say cookie because like with my kid, I'll say, okay, 2 times 4, 2 groups of 4, and naturally she will draw a circle with dots in the middle. I've just never thought to like call that a cookie, and I am going to call it that now. Yep. And if your kid is already understanding the concept of multiplication, that 4 times 2 is 4 groups with 2 in each or 2 groups with 4 in each, you don't need to bother with the skip counting thing. I'm just saying if your kid is struggling with multiplication, that is a good way to start, right? Having the skip counting song stuck in their head to where they are just repeated addition. But if they're already understanding that the concept is the groups, stick with that. Don't confuse, you don't need to add or confuse them anymore. Okay, so with division, same thing. So like addition and subtraction are reverses of one another. So if I say 5 plus 2 is 7, that means 7 minus 2 is 5. Multiplication and division are the same thing. So if your child is not strong in multiplication, they are going to really struggle with division. And that's one thing that I do like about Christian Light being so old school with the flashcards, even with addition and subtraction. Like level 1, 1st grade, we're doing addition and subtraction flashcards every single day, and they're not moving them on to subtraction until they have nailed those addition facts. Same thing with multiplication and division. Don't even touch division until they've got a strong hold on multiplication, because division is just the reverse of multiplication, right? 5 times 2 is 10, 10 divided by 2 is 5. Do you think adding the reading program is necessary? Christian Light Language Arts 1. We did do Christian Light Language Arts 1 and Reading 1 together for the full year, but that's because we weren't doing 5 in a row yet. So I felt like we needed a reading, right? Now that we are doing the 5 in a row stories together every single day, I do not feel like I need to also do Christian Light Education reading. But if you're going to drop one, drop the reading. Don't drop the language arts. It's way too beneficial, way too thorough and packed with different skills that your child's going to need. How do you schedule your day? So for me this year, I think I finally found something that works. I was saying earlier that I do something called a block schedule. So when you go look at my schedule on, this is free. You can download it off my website. It's free. You get a blank copy that you can use for yourself, but then I also give you my current schedule so you can like compare and see what it looks like. This was before we did block schedule. So we used to do every single subject every single day. Okay, so when you see my schedule, we started the morning with morning work, then we did a family science lesson together, then we did language arts, and then we did math. Like we were hitting the subjects every day. That's one way to do it. I will tell you that your days are going to be very long if you try to hit every single subject every single day. So now I do something called a block schedule where we only do math on Monday, no reading. We only do language arts on Tuesday, no math. Then we go back to math on Wednesday, no reading. You know what I'm saying? We alternate. That is going to take us longer to get through the full grade level in a year, but I'm less stressed. We're not schooling for 5 hours a day. We're finishing in 2 to 3, and I'm able to just focus on teaching one subject at a time instead of pulling out my millions of bins and supplies for all the different subjects. I'm doing math 1 with my kiddo at the moment. He doesn't understand something. Should I repeat the same lesson? Oh my gosh, this is so important. Okay, we're kind of dealing with this right now. My daughter in the 2nd grade was struggling hardcore with telling time. Like, I don't get it, whatever. It was just a struggle, okay? And I felt the same way. I'm like, do we stay on this lesson? Do we move on? We personally moved on because Christian Light is amazing at making sure They're going back and reviewing every single day. So I knew she's not really understanding the telling time lesson today, but we're going to do a review of it tomorrow. Now, if by day 2, she's still struggling with it, even though it's that review, then I'm probably going to stick on that lesson. Thank you. I'm not going to move on anymore. So now with other curriculums that don't do that much review, don't move on at all, right? Make sure they understand it before they move on. Christian Light is just so thorough with their review. Like, you are going to be telling time every single day. I'm okay with moving on if they're not quite getting it right away. For grades 4 and up, what curriculum would you recommend? So Jasmine, when they get into those older grades, like when my kids get into 6th grade, I'm going to switch to something online. I don't quite know what yet. I'm looking into Acellus Academy, Power Homeschool, Time for Learning, Abeka. There's all kinds of online programs out there because those older grades, I feel like they're more independent at that point, and I don't need to be sitting next to them doing every little thing for them. So I like the idea of online curriculums for those older grades, and online curriculums provide you with a report card, with a transcript, test percentages. This will help me when I go to get my kids' diploma, homeschool diploma later on. So that's my plan. Online homeschool when they get into those upper grades. I'm thinking 6th grade. I'll probably stay with Christian Light education up until 5th grade and then switch to something online. But every kid is different, right? So it's like your kid might not want an online program. Do you think we could start the Before 5 in a Row program? Oh, these comments are going so fast. Hold on a second. Somebody was asking about, Jenny Marie, do you think we could start the Before 5 in a Row program in January and finish it before? Okay, so let's look at that. So when you are using 5 in a row, this is Before 5 in a Row for ages 2 to 4. But like if your kid is older, you might look into the volume 1 or the volume 2 or whatever. Okay, so at the beginning of the book, it has all of the stories to go with that year. For Before 5 in a Row, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 24. There are 24 stories in the Before 5 in a Row program. So you're asking about, can I get it done between January and August? You just need 24 weeks, right? So if you count up your weeks between January and August, do you have 24 weeks? Okay, and if you're gonna have 24 weeks, right? But maybe you need to take a week break or you're gonna have a few weeks off. You're still good because between January and August, that's what, 8 months? So you have about 32 weeks and you only need 24 weeks because you do 1 story per week. And you don't have to do every single story in this. That's what's cool about Before 5 in a Row. You don't have to go in the same order she goes. I completely changed the order. I'm not doing her order at all. It doesn't build on each other. It's all a new story every single week starting fresh. Yes, Claudia, would you recommend homeschooling for a child who has ADHD? 100% yes. Any child that has something that requires an IEP or a 504 plan in the school system is going to benefit from one-on-one instruction. Truly, any child in the world, ADHD or not, is going to benefit from one-on-one instruction. Us adults benefit from one-on-one instruction. So yes, 100% yes, you're going to be your child's IEP/504. Provide the accommodations that they need, find a curriculum that meets their needs, modify, customize, do it all. And don't worry about the social thing. The social concern with homeschooling is not a thing anymore. I think it used to be a thing, but now so many people are homeschooling that the local rec centers, the local libraries, your parks, everything, everybody's catching on. And they're all kind of coming out with these little homeschool programs and homeschool PE, homeschool art class. You know, there's play dates and co-ops and all different things you can join for homeschool. So do not worry about the social thing. It's like that's what I was worried about. How are my kids going to socialize? And now looking back, it's like hilarious. I ever thought that. But when I was a teacher, I hated homeschooling. Like, I was such a grouch, Grinch, Scrooge as a teacher when it came to homeschooling. Like, when my very best friend, I wonder if she's in here right now, Nicole, shout out if you're in here. When she told me that she was going to homeschool her daughter, I was pissed. I was like, what? I'm a public school teacher. I'm your very best friend. send your kid to my school. What do you mean you're going to homeschool? That's a slap in my face as a public school teacher. How dare you? And now, like, it's so funny how things change. I was ignorant. You don't know what you don't know. And COVID is really what opened my eyes. Yes, I homeschool 3rd grade, 1st grade, preschool, and I have a baby that is not homeschooling, but, you know, we stack blocks. Jennifer Marie, Jeannie Marie. Oh, I gotcha. Do we have to go through a curriculum a year, or is it okay to take 1 to 2.5 years? Okay, I am going over my 1 year right now with my 2nd grader. My 2nd grader was let me say it this way. My 8-year-old was supposed to technically start 3rd grade this past August. Here we are in December, and we are just now finishing up 2nd grade. I am a little bothered by that. But I'm not going to freak out. We can find ways to catch up. She's not going to graduate late, nothing like that. You know what I mean? But I want you to be careful with that, because if you're in a state that that wants you to do testing, so you have a 3rd grader and you didn't finish all the 3rd grade yet, but they have to take that 3rd grade standardized test at the end of the year for your state. There's going to be stuff on that test that they have not seen because you didn't finish the 3rd grade curriculum. You know what I mean? So if you're in a state that's kind of free, you don't have to do state testing, take all the time you need. It is always better to go back and not rush through, but you just have to be careful that if you're in a state that requires testing and you haven't finished the grade level and they're supposed to be taking that test at the end of the year, you might want to do like a little cram session. Like, I hate to say that, it's kind of like teaching to the test, just to get them through that end of the year assessment, if that makes sense. I get so many compliments on this little thing. It's like TJ Maxx or Marshall is like super cheap. Oh, as a hygienist, there's so much learning to do outside of what we are taught. Same thing with being a teacher. Like, honestly, the degree in education should not even be a thing. You should just be thrown into the classroom and do an internship, because that is where you're going to learn everything, is that hands-on, in-person internship style. Same thing with homeschooling. Like, I didn't know anything about it until I started doing it. Yes, I do teach during the summer. We go year round. So we start in August and we end in August. And we just take breaks every single month. Or we were taking breaks every single month. Now my kids can't seem to handle that. In Washington State, we test at the level that was taught, not where they should be. I love that, Tracy. That's rare for a state to allow you. So you just choose what grade level you want to test them in that year? Is that how it works? No, it's not based on their birthday. You're just choosing. You value your degree. Yes, you should value it. You should. I value my master. I have a master's degree in behavior analysis. I value that. That is a degree that I truly feel like sitting down and hitting the books taught me so much. My education degree, I do not feel that way. I feel like the experience in the classroom is what made me a killer teacher. Nothing that I learned in college. I propelled you into homeschooling. Good. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I hope it's going well. Because that word, like, propelled, is like a perfect word. Like, some parents will tell me, like, okay, I'm going to start next year. I'm going to give myself a year to plan, and I'm going to start next year. And then other parents are like, my kid came home crying. This happened at school. Yank them out. Next day they're homeschooling, and you're just thrown into this world. And both ways are perfectly fine, and you can be successful in both ways. You don't have to plan for a full year. If I taught 3rd grade, but I'm supposed to have a 4th grader, we test in 3rd. Interesting. But then the following year, do they make sure you do the 4th grade test? I could just like see that, like, fraud. You know, like, I'm just going to keep testing my kid in the 3rd grade so that their scores look okay. So I start homeschooling from the get-go. My kids never went to public school. COVID happened in 2020, and that is where I was like, whoa, like, I don't trust any governmental system anymore. And I pulled she was in daycare. So they did go to daycare. How many kids? 4. I have 4 kids, all girls. 8, 5, 3, and 1. And so Hannah, my kids are also 3rd grade and kindergarten / first grade kind of, and this is what we're using. Christian Light Education, if it's a Christian-based curriculum, obviously, with the name, Christian Light Education. Looks like this. They're like little paper workbooks. You get 10 of them per year. I love this. But there are a bajillion. It's overwhelming how many curriculums are out there, and I'm always hesitant to like promote or advertise specific ones because every kid is so different. Like I have personally tried so many curriculums, but every time I try a new curriculum, I make a video about it and I will take you through the journey with me. So like you'll see on my homeschool curriculum playlist where we were using Matthew C. And I am documenting our experience with Matthew C. We were using Abeka. We were using The Good and the Beautiful. We were using Time for Learning for a little while. And I just give you my honest opinion. And this is the one that we've truly stuck with, though. Christian Light Education for math and language arts, and then 5 in a row, which is like a Charlotte Mason style book unit study for all the other subjects. Math, social studies, science, history, geography is what this is covering. And by the way, with this 5 in a row, like we're not doing science every single day. Maybe we did a science experiment on Monday, and then we did a social studies lesson on Tuesday, and then we did a geography lesson on Wednesday. This I can spread out throughout the week. Does it cost a lot to homeschool? It's totally up to you. If you want to invest in a bunch of different, resources and curriculums and stuff, it can get a little pricey. The biggest thing that we spend money on is like the extracurriculars. So like our jujitsu is a lot of money per month. They do an online drawing class on OutSchool. That's kind of pricey. But the curriculum itself, especially when you have multiple kids. So this is another good thing. With Christian Light Education, you know how I was showing you this teacher's guide? Look, this is the teacher's guide. This teaches me how to teach my kid. And then when it's time for her to do the work, she goes into her student book and does the work. Well, all I have to do every year is buy a new student book. The teacher's guide, I'm going to keep using this teacher's guide year after year for all my kids. So it might seem a little expensive at first because I'm buying all the teacher's guides and the flashcards and all the stuff, but these workbooks are cheap. These are like, I seriously think they're like $2.50 or something on their website. It's so cheap. It's the teacher's guides that you're buying up front that cost a lot, but you reuse them year after year. And then online, like if you want to use an online curriculum, most online curriculums have a subscription style payment where like Time for Learning is like $30 a month. Abeka, I love Abeka, but it's like $2,500 a year or whatever. It's like, it depends. Totally depends on what you choose. Okay, so Rosie, it's Rosie. Do you homeschool your daughters at the same time, or does each one get one-on-one time? I have tried every which way. I have tried family style all together. I have tried everybody separately. There are pros and cons to both, but I do feel like every child deserves one-on-one time with me, even if it's for 5 minutes stacking blocks with my 3-year-old. As far as the actual core curriculum goes, when I sit down with my kids for math, I am pulling one child by themselves, doing the lesson with them, only the teaching part. Then I send them off with their workbook to go do their independent work, and that's when I pull my next kid to do their math lesson. Again, then they can go work independently. Then I'll go stack blocks on the floor with my 3-year-old or whatever. I feel really bad. I got to get something more like solid for her, but I try to get my one-on-one time with her. Then I will bring everybody together, all 4 girls, the baby included, and that's when we sit down and we read our 5 in a row book together. So we do this family style, 5 in a row book together, and do the fun little activity that goes along with that. So in other words, I separate them for the core teaching of math and language arts, but then we all come together for the science, social studies, history, geography, that kind of thing. So I haven't used 5 in a row for middle school, but they do go all the way to high school. The books, obviously, so right now with 5 in a row, we're doing little cute picture books. In the high school level, you're going to be doing novels, I believe, like bigger stories, of course. When do you decide in the lesson that they do independent work? I'm so glad you asked that, Kim. So another thing, again, I am not sponsored. I am not making money, nothing. I have to keep saying that because TikTok. Christian Light has inside the light unit, I'm showing you the math, but the language arts is the same. They're all the same. Inside a light unit, you do your lesson together. Okay, this is me teaching, doing the lesson. Okay, whatever I taught her that day, we're going to do together in her workbook. This lesson was adding decimals. Okay, I'm with her for this. Then, and every single day is just like this. Then you get to a point in the light unit called we remember. That means everything else from this point on is stuff that you've already taught your kid and that they can do on their own. So I know when we hit this page, okay, go off on your own now. Now, of course, there are moments where she's like, wait, I forget, or I tell her just skip it, and I will work with you when I'm done with your sister. So in these light units, again, it literally tells you when they can go work independently. I want to show you another thing. Is it this one? Right here. Level 1. Okay, same thing, but this is first grade math, not second grade. Instead of we remember, they call it, this is cute, I can do this. When she gets to this point in the book, she leaves me. I can do this. Go do it on your own. You don't need me anymore. The first part of the lesson we're doing together. When they get to this page, I can do this. Goodbye. Have a nice day. See you when I'm done with your sister. Now, language arts, somebody was asking, is language arts the same way? So here's the language arts light unit. Here's the lesson. For this lesson, we learned about capitalizing the name of countries. So this was a capitalization lesson. Again, we do everything together, and then we remember. Same thing. So language arts, I know when she gets to this point, we remember, she can go work on her own. Again, if you've got a kid who's like, I need mommy next to me 24/7, which is exactly how my kids are, eventually they will get to the point, if you just tell them like, hey, go do the best you can, skip the things you feel like you need help with. Sometimes I'll straight up tell my kid like, hey, we learned all this. You know all this. Like, don't even, because they'll try to manipulate you. But for the most part, they can work independently just fine. Okay, last thing is the learning to read. Now, learning to read, I will admit, is a lot. There's very little they can do in learning to read independently. We learn the letter sound together. This is learning to read. This is the third light unit, by the way. Handwriting practice, dot maps. Don't even get me started on those, but they are important. Phonics, looking at the picture. She can do this on her own. She looks at the picture. What does it start with? Bell, B. Bow, B. Hammer, you know, bird, blah, blah, blah. She can pretty much, sometimes she needs me to tell her what the picture is. Like Jack in the Box. She didn't know what that was. Everything else we're kind of doing together. So I will say the learning to read light units, they can't really do much independent. This was cool. Match the letter, right? Where's the other Z? Where's the other Y? That kind of thing. All right, sorry. My 4-year-old is super interested in school because of her older sister. That's, okay, at age 4, what I was just showing you guys, these light units, they have them for kindergarten, which you wouldn't think 4 years old is kindergarten, but with this program, we started this with my 4-year-old. So same thing, same program, Christian Light Education, but it's purple booklets instead of red, and this was amazing. So, and Horizons has a good preschool program too for 4-year-olds. If you wanted something just for them to do with their big sisters, that's like how my kids are. Do you have to let your kids finish the year? In the school system? No. And that is a huge misconception. A lot of parents think you can't pull your kid out to homeschool until the end of the year. Absolutely not true. And depending on your state, a lot of states, you don't even have to notify the school. Right now, you have to look at your state laws, of course, but a lot of states don't even require that. So absolutely not. You do not have to wait until the end of the year. You can pull your kid out. But if there's not an emergent situation, like there's no bullying or anything like that happening where you need to pull them out immediately, sometimes I will recommend waiting until their cycle of testing is over. And I say that for selfish reasons because if you let the school test your child, like maybe they do testing in January and then they do it again in June, let them do the test at the school so you can get those test results, and that will be a good baseline for you to know where to start your kid in the homeschool. Obviously, if there's an emergency situation, your kid's being bullied or whatever, you need to get them out immediately, you're not going to wait. But if you can wait, maybe wait until the cycle of testing is over, state testing, so that you can get their scores. My kids are dual enrolled and we are moving to a new county next month. County? Like you're staying in the same state? Is that what you mean? Because nothing should, your laws will remain the same, but you're saying you're dual enrolled, meaning are you partially homeschooling and they're partially going to the public school? Tell me a little bit about how you're structuring that. And if anybody in here is in the state of Florida, oh, you said school for sports. Hey, Shai, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to tell you how it works here. Where I live in North Carolina, it's extremely frustrating. If my child wants to go try out for the cheerleading team at the local public school, some counties allow that and other counties do not allow that. Even though in Florida, it's the state. It is a state law in the state of Florida that your homeschool child is allowed to do public school sports. In North Carolina, it's on a county by county basis, not a state basis. So in your situation, I would 100% call the county that you're moving to and ask them, because it is extremely frustrating, especially where we live. We are like right next to the Georgia line. Like we might as well just live in Georgia. And so it's like, well, can my kid go to the Georgia public school to cheerlead or do basketball or whatever she wants? But again, it goes by the county. Yeah, I agree. Especially because we're homeschooling, but yet we're still paying taxes for the public schools. And that's Florida's argument. Yes, your homeschooling child is going to be allowed to go play sports at the public school because your tax dollars are paying for that program. You know what I mean? Now, Florida, I guess, is a little tricky if you're on like the scholarship program, because now you're getting reimbursed for specific extracurriculars. But yeah, county by county basis. Ignite Christian Academy, I have a video on them specifically because they are a part of AOP, so you'll see the video is sponsored, disclosure. Have not personally used it. I only did extensive research on it for the video. It's an accredited program, meaning at the end of the program, your child gets an official accredited diploma. You don't have to go and order the diploma or anything like that. In terms of like how the teaching is with Ignite Christian Academy, I have not used the actual platform, so I don't want to tell you. That's called Ignite Christian Academy. It's through AOP, who also has Horizons and LifePack and Monarch, but it's their accredited, it's kind of like a school, like an online school. Bianca, which 5 in a row book would be good for second grade? So I struggle with that too. Like, should I do volume 1 or volume 2? We did volume 1, and I'm super happy that I did. So my kid is 8 years old. She's technically in 3rd grade, but like 2nd/3rd. And you see the age range there. So this is volume 1, ages 5 to 9. When they're in 2nd, 3rd grade and they're nearing that 9-year-old age, it's like tricky. Like, okay, what do I do? Volume 2? What am I doing here? Do volume 1. The stories are so sweet. My 8-year-old, almost 9-year-old is loving them. I love it. And then we'll move into volume 2 after this. Hannah, what are your thoughts on Horizons? I love Horizons, but the kindergarten Horizons program was not a good fit for my kid, for my 5-year-old. The good thing about Horizons, which I have it here, I'm just going to show you, like this is the kindergarten phonics Horizons, and I'm just going to give you an example. Okay, so, and you can take this as a pro or a con. With Horizons, you do your lesson, right? Today we're focusing on the letter G. She circles a couple things that start with the letter G. Over here we practice some handwriting. She circles the letter G's that she sees, and then she does some sentences. And then we start the next letter right after. So it's short, super, super short. If you need short lessons, then Horizons is great. But if you have a kid who like needs things more in depth, needs more repetition, needs more practice, I would not recommend this. But if you've got a kid who like gets it right away, doesn't need 5 million pages each day, then Horizons is great. And it's colorful. right? I have tons of videos on Horizons, lots of sponsored videos, but that does not change my opinion on it. Colorful, organized, does move a little fast in my opinion, but if your kid can handle it, then it's good. And it's pretty cheap. Horizons is cheap. A lot of private schools use this, I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse. I ended up getting the math from Horizons. So we used to use the Horizons math for first grade, and it was really, really good. And then also the kindergarten Horizons math. Here it is. This is good. I know I was just showing you the Horizons phonics, and I'm like, kind of whatever. I do like the Horizons math. Still very short lessons, literally front to back. One page front to back. Sometimes you get a second page. This is good. I still went back to Christian Light Education math though, because this is like 5 pages a day, which might be overwhelming, but I felt like we were hitting a lot more review with this. This is only 2 pages a day. You're still reviewing, not as much. Pulling my first grader out, should I do a lesson per day? Okay, so you're using All About Reading. Typically, any curriculum is going to be 1 lesson a day. Now, there are some instances, excuse me, like for me, for example, if I know we're kind of falling behind, sometimes I'll try to double up on a lesson here and there. But the way the curriculums are designed is that you hit that 1 lesson per day. Even the Good and the Beautiful, as short as their lessons are, it is still designed to do 1 lesson per day. Now, if your kid is extra motivated or you're going on vacation and you know you need to cram in a whole bunch in 1 week, you could double up. With All About Reading, they follow the Orton-Gillingham method of instruction, so it's very methodical, like very systematic, which is great. So I would probably not double up on lessons. I would probably just do the 1 lesson a day. I am obsessed with the 5 in a row. Yeah, I feel like it has changed my life, my homeschool life. I was showing it off earlier, but my daughter's journal right here. I won't go through all the pages again for those of you that have been in here for a while. But with the 5 in a row, we are hitting so many different things, like the flag of China, sink or float science, simple machines, pulleys and levers and that kind of thing. The 5 senses. Here we're learning about Russia. Speaking of Russia, we did the Russian skyline today. She illustrated Russian buildings, all from that one story that we read this week with 5 in a row for the Russia stuff. The rest of the stuff is from other stories, but that's the 5 in a row. Super wholesome, opening up really good conversations. Crystal, the 5 in a row is, I infuse my history. So what I was just showing you, like the learning all about Russia this week, that was history. We learned about communism. That was interesting. But it was part of this 5 in a row curriculum, this book that I was holding up, where we read a story. The story just happened to take place in Russia, and so we spent the whole week learning about Russia. So when you hear me say unit study style is where you focus on one topic for the whole week. So this topic this week was Russia, and we just did Russia stuff all week. Tomorrow, we're gonna cook a Russian dish. We try to end the week with like a dish of some sort. So this is a unit study. Now, next week, we're doing, remember the old Ezra Jack Keats story, A Snowy Day, or The Snowy Day? We will do the whole week with winter activities, learning about snow, learning about temperature, learning about whatever, right? So next week will be more science driven. This week was more history and geography driven with Russia stuff. Next week will be more science driven with winter, weather, that kind of thing. Yeah, so Kat, the recipes for 5 in a row, on their website, I did have to buy this separately. I'm going to show you. I have it right here, I think. There's a separate cookbook that goes along with 5 in a row. Now, what's cool is the actual storybooks themselves, a lot of them have the recipes right in the back of the storybook. Where is here we go. Here, look. This is the recipe book. I think I paid $10 for this on their website. These are all the recipes that go along with the story for that week. But again, without even having to pay the money for these recipes, the storybooks themselves, like the apple pie story, actually had the recipe in the storybook. Not having to buy this. But this is the separate cookbook that I got, printed it off their website. I want to say it was like $10. Might have been more. Are the stories in the book? So this is the teacher's guide that has all the lessons you can choose from. The books themselves, like the actual storybooks that you read with your child, you have to find these. So this is this 5 in a row. When you order this, you're just getting the teacher's guide. The storybooks, they'll give you the list of books. There's a list that says these are all the books you want to get for this program. Now it's pros and cons. Like you can go to the library and just rent the books for the week. I went to thrift stores, garage sales, eBay. eBay was huge. Thriftbooks.com, and I got all the books from there. Is it Rainbow Resource? I think there's a website called Rainbow Resource where you can just buy the bundle of the books that go with it, but it ended up being more expensive to go that route than just finding them on my own. So that's the downside about this. You are going and having to find the books for yourself. Destiny, I only struggled with finding a couple, and they were like the classics that are no longer being printed. Like this one was written in 1932. I got this one off eBay, but I had to be put on a waiting list for it. So, but then others were no big deal, and Amazon had a lot of them too. So it totally depends. The library did not have many of them because a lot of parents use this curriculum. They go to the library and they rent out the books. Besides 5 in a row, what other Charlotte Mason style curriculum are you using? None. This is the only Charlotte Mason style curriculum that I'm using. There is another one called Ambleside Online that I have not personally tried, but that's a kind of make your own type Charlotte Mason style where you have a story that you're reading. Bookshark is another one. Sunlight, S-O-N, Sunlight is a faith-based Charlotte Mason style curriculum. There's Simply Charlotte Mason. There's so many out there, but this is the only one. This is my first experience ever doing any kind of unit study Charlotte Mason style, and it's amazing. Now, I would not, me personally, I could not only just use, like I couldn't just do this every day. That is why I'm still doing a math and a language arts with Christian Light, and then this is covering all the fun extra stuff. Because this is not explicitly teaching you how to teach your kid to read or how to do math. It's the fun stuff, the history and the science and the social studies and the whatever. This is the 5 in a row is what's covering my science. So I'm not using like an explicit science curriculum anymore. I've tried Abeka Science. Abeka Science was good. BJU Science, did not like that at all. Time for Learning Science was okay. Mia Academy Science was okay. But science is like a struggle. Science curriculums are a struggle for me. Sunlight is heavy on reading. Yeah, and with the Sunlight, so I ordered a sample of Sunlight once, and they sent it to me. And the one thing I didn't like about Sunlight, and I think Bookshark is like this too, actually, instead of just sitting down and reading the whole story from cover to cover, you would read like a couple pages on Monday and then do an activity, and then read the next couple pages on Tuesday. And then it took you like a week just to finish a book. I didn't like that. History is hard for me too. Yeah, that's the same thing. The 5 in a row is kind of covering my history, but I struggle with finding a good curriculum. No, we're not in classical conversations anymore. We did not join it again this year. The community near me shut down. And I was getting a little weirded out by classical conversations anyways. Like I have some videos on it. Once my best friend became the director and like she started seeing things from the inside, and it's like money driven, money motivated, which is sad. It's because it's a really cool program, but it just like cult-like kind of. You cannot question the authorities. I didn't like that. Racial diversity is a top priority for me, and the CC here is very anti-diverse. That's interesting. We actually had the opposite experience. Our classical conversations community, now this was back in Florida, was heavily diverse, and it was very cool. Many different cultures, many different backgrounds, many different experiences, but I think probably depends on the area. Also, classical conversations is expensive. Would you consider CC to be an MLM? I used to say no. But then when my best friend became the director, there was heavy pressure to recruit, right? Recruit. The only reason why I say it's not really an MLM though is because when I think of MLM, I think of, okay, the more people you recruit and then they become leaders. And then as they become leaders, you're putting more money in your pocket. CC's not really like that. You are still the director and you're recruiting families, which puts a little bit of extra money in your pocket, but them moving up to a director position is not increasing your income. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's not, I don't think we could call it an MLM. But it is heavy on the recruitment, like almost in a weird way. Best curriculum for transitioning from public school kinder to homeschool first grade. So first, JC, I would not just assume that your kinder is going to be ready for first grade curriculum. So that's, I always recommend IXL, those 3 letters, IXL. It is an online program. It's a subscription, but you can just pay the $10 and then just cancel your subscription. That's what I do. You take their diagnostic test. You have your kids sit down at the computer. It'll ask them math questions. It will ask them reading questions. And then at the end of that test, it will tell you, is your child on kindergarten level for math? Are they on first grade level? Are they on second grade level? Find that out first before you pay for a curriculum. Because if you go pay for a first grade curriculum and then your kiddo starts it and they're really struggling, you're like, oh my gosh, I think maybe I should have got them a kindergarten curriculum. That diagnostic test is going to give you a good idea of where to start them. Then you can start researching the specific curriculums. And I was saying earlier to everybody, like when you start looking for a homeschool curriculum, instead of searching a name for a curriculum, or if you type in best curriculum for second grade math, first, find out if the curriculum you're looking at is faith-based, Christian-based curriculum, or secular, non-Christian. Because if you fall in love with a curriculum and you're ready to spend all this money, or you do go spend all this money, and then you realize, oh, it's a Christian curriculum and I didn't want a Christian curriculum, there is no way to get around that. Like, you can't modify the lessons really, like you're just kind of screwed. Same goes if you really wanted a Christian curriculum and you accidentally got a secular. So look at that up first, like faith-based versus secular. Colorado. Oh my goodness, the comments are going so bad. I can't say. Mia Academy. We're not using the Mia Academy for anything other than like sometimes I'll throw my kid on there for her sign language. Mia Academy, I have like a love-hate relationship with that one. My child liked it, but I don't know how much we were really getting out of it, like how much she was retaining with Mia Academy. But I will say in Mia Academy's defense, there are printable worksheets to go along with the online lessons. And I think if you do the worksheets in conjunction with the online part, you'll be better off. What is the best to use for first grader to teach reading? I am a huge fan of this program that I was holding up earlier. It's called Learning to Read by Christian Light Education. Right here, I'll show it to you. The red books. So the Learning to Read program is like very systematic. You learn one letter at a time, sight words, every little, I know sight words are controversial, but this is very old school. This teaches reading in a very, very, very traditional old school manner, which is how I like. Abeka also has a really strong phonics program for learning to read. It's more expensive though. This is cheap. Abeka is super expensive. They're both great programs. Those are my top 2 for learning to read. Both are Christian curriculums though, so just keep that in mind. And then somebody was asking, oh, wait a minute. Do you have any advice for switching content from TikTok to other platforms? Yes. All right, I'm dealing with this right now. This whole TikTok thing is like so crazy what they're doing to us creators. There is a program called Repurpose, all one word, Repurpose. I pay $30 a month for it. I don't know if it's really worth it or not yet, but basically anything I post on TikTok automatically gets posted to my Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and whatever else platform. Oh, Google Drive. Repurpose. It's all one word. It's expensive, but it does all get just, that's why you see, if you see my Facebook page, it's all the same content from TikTok, but I'm monetizing on both. So you're double dipping kind of. What are your thoughts on CTC math? I love CTC math. The only qualm that I have about it is that it's all online, which a lot of people love that. For me, at this age, for this young age, I need the workbook with the online, and there's no workbook with CTC math. They have little printable like things, but I want the workbook. But CTC math, it is very reputable, research-based. I love the creator of it. I'm freezing right now, so I keep moving my hands. Okay, I am going to hop off here in a second. So if you are not following me already, like I said, everything we talk about here, there is a video for it. Like, I swear, the schedules, the classical conversations, the curriculums, the routines, everything I have a video for, I swear. You can scroll for the last 3 years, video after video. And then also my Facebook, same name, Heavenly Homeschool. I am doing like all of my real posting on there. TikTok is like really screwing us creators monetarily. So Facebook so far is paying a lot more. So if you have Facebook, I know not everybody has Facebook anymore. I'm just posting my life away on there. So you can find, and you can message me on there. TikTok, you can't really message me. You can get me easier on Facebook. Okay. So I am going to hop off before I freeze to death in here. The insulation, we're finally getting it done. So reach out to me via email if you need evaluations. Florida people, my homeschool evaluation people. And then next Tuesday, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm trying to make my live days. Okay, and I'll send out like the little event invite so you know when they're coming. Okay. Yes, thank you. heavenlyhomeschool.org, no spaces. That's the website. And then the Facebook is just Heavenly Homeschool. Okay, and my kids are screaming out there as they run down the mountain. Okay, I'm going to go. All right, love you guys. Goodbye.